Hello, hello, and welcome to the first live stream on this channel, the first stream of what we are calling a spiritual practice that hopefully you will enjoy. We will be doing this on Fridays at this time, which is 6 Eastern. And I'm very excited to be doing this. I've been thinking about this for quite some time. Hello, my name is Charlie. I am a non-binary sci-fi fantasy writer and a member of the board of directors for Creation Spirituality Communities. And I just want to say welcome, and to welcome onto the screen the other people that are here with me. I am joined by the wonderful feminist author Megan McCarthy, the
Hello.
phenomenal writer of just about everything and the maker of the most wonderful breads, Glory.
Hello.
And the phenomenal writer that I have had the wonderful privilege of working on not one but two of her book covers, the amazing Carrie H. Arthur, which is how you can find her on the YouTubes. So I am very excited to be here. I am very nervous to be here because the buttons are not working, which is weird because I just did StreamYard yesterday and everything was fine on a different channel. But hey, it is what it is. So what we are going to be doing today is a very, very simple little prayer. We're going to start off in just a moment with Glory lighting a candle. I am going to call the archangels, say a little prayer, and then we're going to get into our topic on decolonizing and befriending the darkness, because it's the winter season. We're heading towards the solstice. The days are getting shorter. There are a lot of things, a lot of bad stuff out there right now. And on that note, of course, just as I was about to pass things over, of course, that's when the coughing starts.
Yeah.
As is appropriate. Let us go ahead and get our candle lit.
You know, you saw me just test it and everything was fine.
Of course, that's how it works.
As I was saying the other day, doesn't matter how many times I stream, how many times I do a thing. The first time for a new thing, it's always.
It's like, yeah, we're going to get this baby birth one way or another. I do have, the battery is low, of course. It was literally fine a minute ago. May I say for a moment, talk amongst yourselves, I'm going to go get the matches.
All right.
So sorry.
Oh no,
I'm gonna light my candle.
This is the way things are. Things are with every time I try something for the first time. Even if I've done the same thing 1,000 times before, there are always hiccups. There are always birth pangs, and I've come to get used to it. There also may be barking during the stream
because I'm eating.
Yeah, I do have dogs.
She keeps looking around. She's sitting next to me, my beautiful Sasha, and she keeps looking around. And there are some dogs in the neighborhood that she is hearing bark from time to time, and is joining in chorus with them.
I was like, no, I don't need the matches. And that's why I was testing the my lighter beforehand, but no. That is not how this works. All right. One more time. This time with feeling.
This time with...
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adli ner adlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And we are going to open the circle around us, which is going to pull us together no matter where we are in space and time. And instead of using a prayer that makes us worry and wonder about which way is north, which I know some people have concerns about facing the wrong directions, we're going to use a very simple encircling prayer that just means you need to know the difference between your left and your right. So we're going to call the archangels and ask that the Archangel Michael, the Archangel of Compassion, stand to our right. That the Archangel Gabriel, the Archangel of Strength, stand to our left. That the Archangel Uriel, the Angel of Light, will stand before us and guide us. That the Archangel Raphael, the Angel of Healing, will stand behind us. And that the Shekhinah, the glorious presence of God, will ever stand above us, enfolding us in her wings, that she might guide and guard us all the days of our lives. Amen. And on this day, we are going to say a brief invocation to the Dark Mother. I am a very strong, I've had a devotion to the Black Madonna since about the time I converted to Catholicism. So that would probably, I don't even want to think about how long ago that was. And so let us say a quick little prayer. Hail, Dark Mother, black and beautiful. All the graces of the Creator and creation are with you. Blessed Mother, most holy, our source, healer, and comforter, who embraces us through the darkness of space and sustains us through the fruit of the nurturing black soil of the earth. We see you in the heavens, in the night, in the hidden corners of our dreams. You hold us in our uncertainty and embrace us in our doubts. You weep with our pains and grieve with our losses. We hear your voice within our sobs, in our sighs, in our calm, and in harmony itself. Most hallowed be your unspeakable and unknowable name that rings forth in the laughter of children and in the silent praises of calm hearts. You are ever present and often unseen in the concord of friends, the stillness of the night, and the peace that passes all understanding. Your heart makes the light shine bright. Your darkness makes the light shine brighter, inviting us to pause, to wait, to renew, and to heal. Reminding us that in the expanding universe, reminding us that in an expanding universe, everywhere is the center. There is not one point, there are all points. You beacon us to come together and through your creativity to give rise to newness while seeking balance in all we do. We tear down the walls holding bounty from others, and you guide us to embrace the constancy of change, transforming us through breakthrough and adaptation. You teach us to work together and form bonds with one another so our radiance can shine forth. Our souls are nurtured in the life-giving soil of the dark earth, and our minds are challenged by the mysteries of the blackest nights. Dark Mother, sustain us, nurture us, and restore us in the silence so the vine of wisdom and life may grow from the depths of our being, so we may encourage healing, compassion, and hope into the world. Amen. So today, we are getting ready to go into the season of Yule. It is already Advent. We've had 2 Sundays in the Advent season for those who practice Advent, and the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting darker, and around here at least, it's beautiful and warm during the day, and then the sun goes away and the cold and the chill sets in. And it makes a lot of us think about darkness. And I wanted us to have a bit of a chat about how we often use this word and abuse this word, to both use it to help bring meaning and purpose to our lives, because that is why we gather in groups, is to make meaning together, but also by accident abuse this term and cause harm that we may not even see that we're doing. So what do I mean by decolonizing darkness? Darkness is very often associated with a sister term, and that's blackness. And so when we are using terms like dark and black to mean evil, sin, stained, dirtied, sullied, we start making assumptions on how anyone of a darker complexion to us, people maybe with darker hair, are. You can see this play out in a lot of media. You can see this play out in a lot of propaganda posters where the heroes are always the blonde hair, blue-eyed, light-skinned folks. And this can be really problematic. And it's something that we need to watch in ourselves, that we're not taking these ideas and bring them too much to heart. Megan and I were talking earlier about the history of this problem and how it really does come from this problem of seeing sin as something, or evil as something dirty, and that dirtiness and that darkness being reflected in people, and how that was used to help justify things like American chattel slavery. And I don't even, I can't wrap my head around how some of this came into being, other than just people wanting to justify the actions that they were already committing. Because if anybody doesn't know, the theological connection that happens here in the States, because this isn't as prevalent in a lot of global versions of theology, is these slave owners needed to have a justification to not only keep people and own them, but to justify this being an inherited state. And so they decided to say that this was the curse of Ham, from Noah's son, who was cursed. Now, scripture does not say what the curse was, just that he was cursed. It does not say how it manifested. They chose to say he was cursed with dark skin. That's how we can know all of the descendants of Ham, and that that curse goes on to the future generations. And this is how they, I don't even like using the word justified, even though they did use this to justify their racism and their owning of other human beings, which my brain boggles at the idea that you could own another human. But all of this gets entwined and entangled, and you see the language being used and twisted to ensure that we only use light terms to mean things that are good, and any term for dark, shadowy, black. Someone is black-hearted, they're evil, right? We start using all of these terms to add a moral dimension onto a color, onto a shade of colors. And it is a very problematic thing, especially in our theologies, in our spiritualities, and in our mysticism, where when you actually dig into a lot of traditions, darkness, and we'll talk about this a bit more in a minute, darkness tends to just simply mean what it is. It's the absence of light. It's where the mysteries are. In fact, the psalmist tells us that God dwells in darkness. It says God set up his throne and wrapped thick clouds around him and hid himself in darkness. And what I really find fun is how when you actually read the scriptural tradition, the story is backwards from the way it usually gets told to us, because the description of heaven is also a place that's on fire with stones that are burning all over the place. Like, it really is an odd inversion of the stories that they're supposedly basing things on. But we do not like mystery. Like, inherently, humans do not like what they do not understand. They do not like what they do not see. And so that adds to this idea of darkness as evil. And I am pontificating a lot here. Does anybody have anything?
I wasn't like you were on a roll. I didn't want to ruin the roll.
I warn y'all, there's a preacher in here.
Once you let the ADHD out of the bag. So, yes, I was reminded of, title The Dark Heart of Africa, or just Dark Heart in general, implying evil rather than the darkness is a needed and necessary part of all living things' existence. Nothing flourishes solely in the light.
No.
Because every living thing needs at least some, if not all, of their regular cycle to be in a rest and reflexive state in darkness. Like humans, we specifically have a different quality of sleep when it is dark and we have no light around us. We have a restful sleep versus if there is light around us, we don't have restful sleep. Instead, we have dream-filled sleep. We have REM sleep, which both are important and have their place, but you will lose your mind if you never get restful sleep. This has been documented. I'm not like just, this is not me pontificate. No, this is actual fact. We need darkness to flourish. So, I remember being a child. My mother used to pay me $20 a book to read Victorian novels because I hated reading Victorian novels because, as she explained, authors back then were paid by the word. So they go on.
And on. So
she paid me to read these classics because she wanted me to be well-read. And also because she was already familiar and she thought the heart of the story was good. It's going to be wordy, so I'll give you money. Yeah, okay. And then also she would bribe me with a movie, usually based on the book. But my point being, it was in these novels was where I was first introduced to the idea of fair people. I thought fair and dark people. I was like, what is this about? And with context, I figured out they're talking about hair color. Because let's be honest, Victorian novels are almost exclusively about white people.
Mm-hmm.
But that there was also this inherent quality of if you are fair or tow-headed, you are somehow morally better. And it had never occurred to me in my entire life before that moment. So I was probably honestly at the point that I actually understood what I was reading about fair and dark being moral viewpoints. I was probably 11 or 12 when it actually clicked through. I had read some in 5th grade, but it didn't make sense to me. My brain was too much of a child at that point. But by the time I was in middle school, I started understanding it and going, why are they moralizing about hair color? It's something that none of us have any control what color. And Mom's like, it's just how the Victorians were. And I was like, why are you having me read this trash? She's like, because people talk about
it. That's why in old movies, the damsel in distress.
I was like, why are you having me read this?
That's why in old movies, the damsel in distress is blonde and blue
Yes.
eyes and
Yep.
right, because she's supposed to be morally pure,
Yes.
so worth the sacrifice
Mhm.
of potentially being injured or dying.
Mhm.
But I was like, why are you having me read this trash?
the
And her
villain
point
is-
was that because it's going to come up again and again in your life as an adult, people are going to reference these books. They're going to remake these into films, and you need to know what is actually being said, because people are going to interpret it, and they're going to just, I don't remember what word my mother used, but it was the early 90s, so I was like, oh, snowblow, which essentially as a child I'd heard a bad word or a bad term, and I interpreted it as an actual snowblower covering a person with snow, which seemed also not nice. But nevertheless, they're going to try to obfuscate for the fact that they agree with this book, but they know that in modern sensibilities it is unacceptable, so they're going to smooth it over, they're going to reinterpret it, but at the heart of it is still bigotry. And that was really at the heart of what she wanted me to understand. That, and sometimes she's like, but this is actually kind of a fun story. That was mostly Little Women, was how she felt like. It was mostly fun. And I don't know if she thought The Red Badge of Courage was fun, because I went off so hard on that. She never told me her own personal opinions about this book.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not
how lowly I thought of Moby Dick. I had choice words.
But
She
you
did
know
that
how to tie a sailor's knot. It
I
goes
was
into
really more
detail.
like, what are all with all these other idiots who are like, sure, his obsession, not questionable, not ringing bells at all. But again, the white whale versus there's no white whales. They've never seen an albino whale before. Like, they're like, apparently whales don't come in albino flavors. But like, that was, they interpreted, you have a regular whale, which is a leviathan of destruction as interpreted by Victorians, and then the whiteness of it and this man chasing it, all metaphor all day. And I just did not understand this. It was so foreign to me. No one had ever told me that I am less moral because my hair is not blonde.
And this is becoming increasingly subtle in a lot of, especially when we're looking at media depictions of how this idea of moralizing color works, in that it's the colorism that's coming in, where they will have various people of color in the film or in the TV show, and the lighter their skin, the more noble and good they are. The darker their skin, the more villainous they are. It's still around. It's not as overt as it once was in a lot of mainstream media, let's say. But there are some places that are still doing it extremely.
I think there's a lot of colorism.
There's a lot of colorism,
like,
which is really,
and like when we say mainstream media, obviously we're talking about American mainstream media, but if you're talking about mainstream media anywhere else on the planet, there is a tremendous amount of colorism. Unless you chose to be that color through sun exposure, and then that's okay because it means you're rich. And the rich, remember, are also inherently more moral, because that is the gospel. What is it? The prosperity gospel of, if you have money, it means God has viewed you as a superior person and therefore has gifted you with money, which is like literally the opposite of all spiritual text ever.
Yes. I have challenged being a prosperity preacher on that here locally when I have run into them at various events, because I'm like, please show me here is Bible, where show me in here. And then making them really upset, where I show them the passage in Proverbs where it very clearly says, if you ask someone to give you a donation, you have taken their reward already because you've gave them thanks. Like, if you are asking, it's not charity. Charity is born out of the heart. And so, like, you're even in your book told not to ask. Like, just don't ask. Just let it happen. But that all gets bound up together because there has to be someone in a pyramid scheme like what we have had since the Industrial Revolution below us on the totem pole. It is easier to feel good about your lot in life as long as there is something or someone underneath you, as long as there is something or someone down there. This is why.
Could I posit, though, the reality, though? It is easier to feel good about you and your life if you have somebody you can care for.
Right.
So
that's the truth.
The truth of it has been subverted and corrupted. And in reality, it's like it, and they don't necessarily need you to take care of them as much as you will just feel good. So whether we're talking about a pet, let's be honest. I know that they talk about like, oh, dogs, if they didn't have humans to take care of them, would die out. With respect, I disagree. I hate those documentaries. But like cats, feral cats really don't need humans. They're wild. They're barely domesticated as it is. But having any birds are taken from the wild, and we're like, sure. But you know what? Birds can still go live. They form their new communities in California because the weather's so good. But the bottom line is, it's still, we feel better when we can care for someone or something else. Because that's how we're wired, to care, to give kindness and nurturing to anything. A plant, I'll take a plant. That's humans. Well, anything. We feel better when we can help it grow and feed it its little plant food. But that's the truth. Versus you're supposed to feel better by just feeling superior to someone. What the? This is the corruption of thought.
This is the corruption of thought. This is the
colonization.
This is the colonization. Because if they're going to set up a master and slave society, which is really what happens in the Industrial Revolution, we did not really leave the old school serfdom behind. It just kind of changed what it is. You're not tied to the land anymore. You're tied to the job. And as such, you have to keep the ladder going. Right? You have to feel that you can go up the ladder, and you have to feel that there are people below the ladder to maintain it. This is why you see a huge boom at the Industrial Revolution of this influx of the spiritual darkness with the spiritualist movement, because people who were realizing, I think I'm on the bottom of the ladder. Oh, no. Have we talked about the demons and the ghosts? The demons and the ghosts are below you. They're hungry, they're tired, they're just roaming around aimlessly. They're trying to do all the spooky things because they're just aimless. They're down there. They're down there, but if you follow my 10-step easy lessons, you won't be one of them.
I think also, like for the middle class, it was, are we the baddies? We are subjugating people. We are profiting off of them, and they are obviously suffering for how we are treating them. Yes. Because when we talk about humans treating other humans with evil intent or neglectful intent, which still is its own kind of evil, a lot of it has to, not all, but a lot of it has to do with when your energy and it is already spent, when you are already exhausted, it is hard to feel compassion for another person because you feel compassion for no one because you are so exhausted, your brain is not properly firing. And so they're noticing, wow, gosh, people are treating each other ugly. They're exhausted. They look hollowed out. They look like they're on death's door. And yet here we are living all nice, and they barely have food, let alone variety of food, which all humans desire some kind of variety, in theory anyway. But like, I know neurodivergence is fine, but I'm just saying, I think there was also, especially in the Victorian era, in the Industrial Revolution, there was this idea of, are we the baddies? The answer is yes. Yes, you are. You are literally profiting off the suffering of others. You are keeping people on starvation wages, and you're making it so they don't even have time or space to farm their own food, so they have a reliable source of some food supplementation. And so they are starving from nutrients to death. Yeah, you are the baddies. And so how do you comfort the baddies? You go, oh, but evil is not you. It lurks in everyone. You're not responsible because you can't control free will. You can't control. It doesn't matter that they're all so hungry and exhausted that it's hard for them to treat each other with respect because they're practically zombies in the streets. It's not you. You have free will, and they have free will, and they are choosing to be evil people because they let the darkness in. This whole absolving one's responsibility that we all have for everyone else. Thomas is going off on rocks.
Hello, Tom. I just need a pet rock. Does that mean that worry stones are pets? So, okay, this actually is you didn't really know this, but this is a segue into what I was just about to say, because you have to be really careful when you're ascribing moral agency to inanimate objects or intellectual constructs. You have to be very careful with this. Darkness is darkness. It just is. It just is.
The absence of light. I mean,
there is no morality.
We're talking about moral darkness.
Yeah, no, just the idea of darkness itself. For us to ascribe morality to darkness. It's nighttime right now. I'm looking out my window and seeing that it is dark outside. There's no moral character to that darkness. It is just dark. The sun has gone down. It is just dark. And this is where we have to watch out when somebody is ascribing moral connotations to inanimate objects or thought forms. It's generally because they're wanting something from you. It is the authority. Look for the authoritarian intent in this, because darkness is such a beautiful example of this authoritarian influence that is trying to colonize everything, including our spirituality. Darkness is simultaneously so powerful it can make you do bad things against your will, but so light you can light a candle and make it go away. You can say the magic words and make it go away. It is simultaneously unparalleled strength that just crushes down on you and controls you and makes you do things. And it's so weak that you could just break it so easily because you're one of the good ones, right?
Whatever you need it to be.
And that dichotomy is at the heart of all authoritarian boogeymen. Whether they're targeting a specific racial group, gender, sexuality, whatever, they are infinitely powerful. They control everything. But they're also simultaneously so weak because we are the good people. We are the strong people. We can just break the powers that they have because they are weak. But they're so powerful. They control everything. But we're really the strong ones. And the smart authoritarians are the ones that space out the distance between these two statements so it doesn't become as blatantly obvious and ridiculous as it is. But we see this in, like, to me, this is one of the easy warning factors that, a colonizing intent has come into this thing. If the thing that you're talking about, like darkness, has this simultaneity, didn't want to use big words, where it is both at the exact same time infinitely powerful and can control you, but so weak you can easily just break through it. Whoever told you that moralistic story is generally trying to control you. And you can see this, like I said, with race, with gender, with any of the stories that we're told. Satan is the most powerful evil monster in the universe that can make us do anything. But magic words and a little bit of a cross, and he's gone.
You just order Satan to get behind you.
Yeah.
And he's got to do it. I'm like, I wish it worked on Little Brothers. Right? I wish it worked on like real problems I have.
And this is
But
why
no, they don't listen. Why is it they're good and they don't listen, but Satan is bad and Satan at least listens and does what I tell him? Riddle me this.
And this is what I really
And this is why my
liked
parents
about
like
what
to take
Tom
me
said.
around to various priests and pastors. Like, go on, tell me your thought. Just because my parents were little chaos demons of just like, hi, she's a child. We want to hear what you have to say.
But this is what I really liked about what Tom said, because applying moral agency is a worrystone a pet. If it helps you to conceptualize it that way, sure. Why not? There is a place for a certain amount of practical naivete in our lives that we just kind of can run with a thing that is not harmful to ourselves or others, and just let it be a pet belief. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing inherently wrong with the idea of assuming that maybe a worrystone is a pet if that is something that helps you through your day. Because it's also not simultaneously so powerful that it will destroy you if you do not pet it. It's about seeing the balance in there. And speaking of chaos demons, my husband is now home. I just saw him pull in. So
Welcome home, Chaos Demon.
that will be fun. He's going to be joining us in just a moment. He wanted to be here for the start of this, but we're getting ready for the Christmas gala at the restaurant, and he's making sure all the prep is done and ready and all of that.
And yes, I did just watch Cinema Therapy and their examination of Scrooge from the Muppet Christmas Carol. Michael Caine's interpretation of Scrooge. I literally
wanted to see that. I want to watch that so bad.
It's good. It's actually good. I was like, because sometimes I'm like on the fence about but this one was pretty good. And yeah, they're talking about both mental illness, but also just poor character. Like, are we the baddies? Yeah.
I think you can tell a lot about a storyteller and the current kind of state of the culture that they're talking to by how their Scrooge looks.
Mm-hmm.
Like what does that filmmaker think of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and how do they how do they read the current state of being by how they write a Scrooge?
Yeah, in between the lines, there was some really interesting talk about obsessive compulsive personality disorder, and how that is different from obsessive compulsion, or OCD. And also, like, without talking about it, they talked about essentially the very wealthy and how even if they might have, say, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, there's more going on than just that. To be profiting off the suffering of others and to tell yourself you're the victim is a very interesting and powerful take. And that is where, we're seeing that evil. And we're seeing that right now in the ultra wealthy.
Yeah.
And people who like the I think, like, I saw a headline in the last 24 hours about this year has one of the highest rates, if not the highest rate since recording, of people taking hardship loans out on their 401k. The highest percentage of people in the US ever doing this. Like, that's what's going on.
Talk amongst yourselves. I need to put headphones on because he's about to join us, and
Okay.
there will be loud computer squealing if he joins the stream, and I do not have headphones on.
Okay. Should I just keep
I'm
going?
just trying to figure out why I'm having connection issues again.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. I just was like, I have also talked quite a bit, and I do not want to take away from your thoughts. Either Megan or Carrie's thoughts on.
Well, the thought that I had was I was discussing this with my friend before we started this stream, and she had brought up the public health movement and how cleanliness is often white coded and upper class coded, and how cleanliness, even today, like in modern times, you'll hear people in this area in particular talk about like dirtiness as an insult to specific people, and so I don't know where I was going with that, but that was just what we had discussed. And
yeah, I think the dirtiness also goes with the colonization of darkness, being evil. That is part of that as well.
Yes.
Because that we really don't see that kind of talk in Europe, and especially in like Eurocentric philosophical discussions. We do not see that back in the 1500s and 1600s. We do not see this as a conversation, even though the people often recording these kind of conversations on paper and print were specifically people in monasteries and abbeys. Like, they're literally people who are discussing religious and philosophy all the dang time when they're talking. And they're not talking about like how darkness or dirtiness is immoral or a indication of lack of spirituality. What they're instead talking about is that disease is instead an immoral state. Because there was so much rampant disease at the time, because this is the era of plagues.
Yeah.
When like how many plagues we lost count. So many plagues. And when it's not a plague, it's instead people getting high off of fermented rye, having a grand old time, or neurological problem. Not necessarily having a good time, but they are having a time. And again, but those things, again, think about disease is also out of control. People can't, I mean, they really could not control it. There was number one, no microscopes. Nobody was entirely sure. Instead, the science was the humors, which is, I can't remember. There's actually a term, but it's essentially, instead of what we think of as our hard sciences now, it's a philosophy of only observable effect, and that is where the four humors come from. So it has its limitations. So one of the things is they can't entirely be sure exactly how things are being transmitted, how disease is being transmitted. And so that is the mystery. And so then they moralize the thing that is the mystery.
And really brought forward a lot of, because Galen was still very popular to be read in the Middle Ages, which just shatters me when you realize how far in the BC that Galen was writing in Greece about medicine. But he really put forward the miasma theory of disease. And what this was is that your actions, if they were good, would basically spawn luck into the world. And if your actions were bad, they would spawn disease into the world. And so it's kind of like karma if you were Pigpen from the Peanuts, and your karma was just like infecting everything around you. Like it's this really weird idea.
The idea of miasma is part of that only of the observable world, but it's not entirely wrong either. Hence why the idea of miasma survived for hundreds of thousands of years almost. This idea of what miasma is. Like, I know that it was still miasma as a concept was still very popular, at least through the 1930s in America. Hence, and actually in the 50s, because that was the reason why people slept in separate beds. Married couples slept in separate beds, was it was considered healthier, because then you're not intermingling the miasma of each other, which
That's
I always actually interpreted as farts. But
this is actually why
farts and bad breath, like it's and I'm like, yeah, it probably does help keep a marriage going, that you don't have to smell them all the time, because at a certain point, like everybody just wants a
My
break from
husband
each
would
other.
say,
I
then
get
your
it.
wife doesn't steal your covers.
But this is why plague doctors wore the long cowl and hood.
Yeah,
It wasn't because
stuff
they
with
actually understood disease. It was to keep the miasma out. It was a protection because from the miasma, and it had some ancillary benefits, and that maybe
and
you
the
didn't
beak
catch a
was
virus.
specifically stuffed with sweet smelling things.
Mhm.
Again, because the idea is if you smell decomp or other gross things like sewage, that will make you sick, which it's not exactly wrong. It's more like kissing cousin. It's like right there, but it's not the actual correct culprit. But yeah, like if you're near it enough to smell it, you're probably near enough to catch it.
Yep.
So the beak was actually in that shape because you stuffed it with flowers and maybe fruit, whatever smelled good to you, or that you had around, juniper, bear, anything, pine. You stuffed it in there so you're smelling that rather than smelling, sick, diseased people who also are too sick to physically care for themselves, keep things clean.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was you would still retain, which is not entirely wrong, because just having a filter, even of plants, gives you a certain amount of filtering effect from disease, from airborne disease. So again, it's like, it's not wrong, it's not right, but it's not entirely wrong. It's close enough that you're in the right ballpark. You're just not at the right base.
It's also interesting when you look at it from the perspective of social contagion as well, and miasma, where it's like, it's not right, but social contagions do happen. And
like, think about how novovirus is like spread, and how one person's projectile vomit on one end of a restaurant can actually get people all the way like 100 yards away sick, and it stays on the surfaces for 2 weeks, so anybody who walks by can also pick up novovirus. Like, again, it's just close enough to correct how some contagions function. It's understandable where they have this idea, since they don't yet have microscopes, they don't yet have the equipment necessary.
The term for malaria, bad air, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Even though it's not the air, it's the bugs.
It's the bugs.
Tom, I didn't know that, like you were saying.
Yeah. Tom says, darkness, like apocalyptic terminology, made morality out of ignorance. And revealing truths. Yeah. This is where I think the term decolonizing really is important here, because it is so much of our religious and philosophical upbringing as a Western society has been by people who did not have our best interests at heart. They were looking at ways to control others. They were looking at ways to get dominance over others. And in that way, the kind of Marxist critique of religion is true. Nietzsche, and for anybody who knows me, you can ring your bell now, because I have brought up Nietzsche, which I do way too much, went so far with this that he started referring to all of these people as preachers of death, who are all about killing the pleasure of life, killing the good things in life, so that they can keep people in a state of near death, so they can be controlled. And this is one of the many groups that he railed against, the others being anti-Semites and people that think that they're better than others. Problem with him is he did look into the darkness and couldn't figure out a way out. He literally looked in. He's where we get the phrase, be careful when you look into the void, because when you do, the void looks back at you. Yeah, he found that out in practical experience. He looked into the void and could not see a future, and ended up really losing his mind, because darkness is very handy when it comes to getting to this point of abject nihilism, where, yes, things can be bad, things can be terrible, things can be awful, things can be meaningless. But where this is not where things stop. And it's not that we have to go to Kierkegaard and do the leap of faith to get out, which, if that's your bag, leap away. It is a great and wonderful thing to do. But the point and purpose of all of the early nihilist thought was to get you to a place where you realized all of the things that you've been told is your purpose, is your job, is the thing that you have to do, is a system of control that is being placed upon you. And once you understand that, you get this thing called agency, where you can take actions out of your own free will. You are no longer blindly obeying the powers that be. And this is why nihilism always gets cut off at the point of just pure cynicism. Everything is bad. Everything is terrible. Well, the zombies will just come and take us all down. You have to stop there, because the only point that you have after you get to nihilism is, oh wait, does that mean I can do what I want to do? Wait, what? And that is the scary thought. That's the scary thought that is not supposed to be spoken. It's the scary thought that a lot of these systems are trying to keep people from getting to. That, yes, you have agency. No, it doesn't always have to be like this. And while, yes, it is easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, well, somebody's got to look and find a different way, right? We can see the stresses and the problems that we have in our society, and we can see the causes and the factors that are exacerbating them. But if we can just get you to a point of just meaningless ennui, we, as in the capitalist class, win. We, as in those who are in power, win. And that's why, if we're going to have any kind of victory, if we're going to have any chance of building a better world, a better lives for ourselves or for others, if we want to get to the Olam Haba, that better world that we want to get to, we have to start here. Darkness is not the enemy. Darkness simply means we don't know what's there. We don't know. We can't see. We're going to have to feel around and find out. We may have to start a fire. We may have to light a light, like we did at the beginning of this. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted this to be our first topic for these streams, because it's in so many ways at the crux of all of the problems that we have personally and spiritually right now. That we are living in a society that has gotten to a certain point of postmodern angst, that it has just embraced the nihilism. There are no good characters in so much media anymore. And I don't necessarily mean that there are no heroes. It's just, well, everyone has to be morally gray. And I'm not saying that a complex character is a bad thing. It's just, you then find out, oh no, they were the worst.
All a hero is a sacrifice, a human sacrifice. Excuse me.
Yes.
We sacrifice our heroes. We don't honor them. I really like the defiant Buddhist philosophy of both the wisdom of no escape, as well as you don't have to solve the mystery in the darkness. You just have to sit in it. Just sit, just be there. Just be there. Don't observe it. Just be there. Just be there, and you don't need to know it. You don't need to know it better. There's no unwinding it. There's no figuring it out. You're just there. Deal with it. You just be. And that is the most defiant thing. That you don't have to know. You don't have to understand. You don't have to grok it. Just be. My bread dough is ready, but it's fine. She can sit. She's a good little girl. She'll sit there.
But this is
But
what
that's what I love about the Buddhism. Buddhism is sort of that defiant reply to capitalism, where capitalism is always like, you have to keep moving forward, you have to keep moving, or all the world will fall apart if we don't all keep staying busy. And Buddhism is like, nah, just sit there and stop talking. And I love it. I love that. Like, what is the Buddhist true afterlife? Nothingness. Like, finally, nothing. Like, and why aren't you grateful? Like, I love it because it is a very important reply to this. Now, am I saying that I entirely agree? I'm more like, why dictate to me? I'll just do what I want, okay? Let me just sit on my log in oblivion. It's fine. But I really think it's a necessary reply to the corruptive power of this postmodern capitalist society that we as Westerners exist in and do not question enough.
Everything that you just said just reminded me of the Buddhist parable of the boat, that when you first start learning the path, you are taught how to build a boat, and then you are taught how to get into the boat, and then you're taught how to row the boat out into the middle of the river, and then at some point you realize there is no boat, there is no river, you were on the other side the whole time, there is no other side, everything's fine, and that this is the actual point and purpose of the practice, is just to kind of, why
don't y'all just exist and calm down?
And
like the Taylor Swift philosophical point. You need to calm down. I don't know why you're like this early in the morning. You need to just calm down, have a smoothie, okay? Like, just be, baby. Just be and party. Tom is right. The other side of it is party time.
Yeah.
How dare we rejoice? The active defiance of, I'm not going to do jack, but have a good time.
It's one of my favorite things when Matthew Fox was naming the 4 paths of creation spirituality. The 4th path, which is, I can't do corners. It's actually the white one down. Yeah, I did it wrong. The white one down there in the corner. The Via Transformativa. The two things that get juxtaposed here, which are so beautiful and so powerful, is this is the place of social change and celebration. Mm-hmm. That these two things go hand in hand. That these two things are together. And it is such an important thing to remember that celebration and joy are the greatest acts of defiance that we have against everything.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
If you can throw a party, and I say this as somebody who has been in the queer rights movement for way, way longer than I was hoping I would. Like, every now and then you get these glimmers of, are we going to get there? No. Okay, we're going back again. All right, here we go. Buckle in, let's go for the ride. But it's one of the reasons why dance is so core to everything that we are. Life is beating us down. If we don't get up and dance, we're going to be smushed. Like, it's going to just destroy us. You have to dance. You have to find those moments of pure, unadulterated joy that wherever you can. And that's really what a lot of this is trying to drain out of us. If you're sitting there worrying, and this is why I get really, really, really nervous about like long laundry lists of do's and don'ts, because again, those are systems of control that can really do some bad things to people. I come at this from the point of view of the Charter for Compassion. They brought together 90 people from 60 different world religions to say, can we agree on one definition of compassion? Can we all come together and agree on one definition? And the definition they came up with is the very simple gold and silver rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and don't do to others what you would not want them to do to you. And you have to have both.
Yes.
Because if you don't tell yourself, I shouldn't do that because I don't want that done to me, you can excuse a lot of bad habits. You need to have both. But all of them could agree on this one thing. And that really is, like, people often act like I'm overly simplistic about this when I'm like, no, compassion is the key to all this. Compassion is the key to all of this.
Amen.
If we would just behave in that way,
Mhm.
we wouldn't need all of the long lists. If you're worried about, is this kind of dancing going to get me in trouble? Is this music of the devil? Like, you have to bring, if you're going to control people, you have to bring in all of these worries, all of these doubts. Because the more worry and doubt and anxiety you can instill in a population,
Amen.
the less access to joy they will have.
Amen. Because joy is the defiance. Joy, you cannot oppress people when they are actively experiencing joy. And if you cannot oppress them, you cannot control them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you cannot control them, you cannot bend them to your will and nefarious plans. They will do what they want. And what they often want, people, when they are in the moment of experiencing joy, what they often want is to spread joy, i.e. defiance, to others, resistance. That is the whole point. Joy is the buzz killer to evil. So, like, again, what
really
brings you joy? Genuine joy. Probably pet playing with pets, because who does not love a good pet? I mean, like petting an animal. Partying, spending fun time with friends, eating good food with people, whether you know them or not. Just eating good food with good people tends to be a good time. Think about all those things do not require anybody to be oppressed. They don't require anybody to be miserable or to be doing things against their will or to be hurting anybody. You don't have to hurt anybody to do the things that bring true joy, not pettiness. I have noticed these days that many Westerners cannot tell the difference between real joy and pettiness.
Yeah.
And that is wild to me.
Yeah.
Because anytime I feel pettiness, I also feel a little guilty. I feel a little naughty because I know I'm not being compassionate in that moment. And I'm like, failings of myself. Things I need to put on the list to be sure to work on. Guess what? It got bumped. So, but like true joy where you're just happy is not hurting anybody and is good for society, which, I mean, it's good for all people, all living things. Hello, Jen.
Hello, Jen. And yes, the more you've had enough therapy to really appreciate Buddhism, but you need to learn a lot more about it. The wonderful thing about Buddhism is there is a Buddhism for everybody. I spent a lot of time with Tibetan monks when I was younger because a group of people built a monastery for them not far from where I lived, and I used to go up there all the time. And this is a very important thing that I don't think a lot of people Westerners understand when they're first introduced to Buddhism. There are a lot of different kinds of Buddhism, from a very meditation-based kind of Vietnamese Zen Buddhism to a very religious and something that would feel very comfortable to a Westerner who grew up in a Christian milieu, like Pure Land Buddhism from Japan. And there are actually several Pure Land churches have actually opened in the United States, and they chose to call them churches because they saw the similarity between what they do and what happens in Christianity. And so there's that. There are non-sectarian Buddhist centers that you can learn from. There's basically a flavor of Buddhism out there for any need, because the Dharma is so simple. It is so simple and compact that it can travel very easily and fit with other philosophies quite well. And it has done so a lot over the centuries. And yeah, I highly recommend you to look into it. I almost started this with doing Thich Nhat Hanh's metta practice, because one of the most powerful lines in that is the very last one: may my enemies be filled with be free of suffering and the causes of suffering, and may my enemies be filled with joy and the causes of joy. And this is such a powerful statement because, one, these are phrases that sound so simple and so light, but Buddhism will unpack them in so many ways. Like
Oh, yeah.
the causes of joy are the same causes that bring enlightenment, and the causes of suffering are attachment, holding on to things too tight, aversion, wanting to cast something off from you, ignorance, complete not knowing about a thing, hatred, and disgust. So, yes, be free of those things. My enemies, be free of those things and filled with a balanced mind, peace of heart, equanimity, insight,
Mm-hmm.
all of the paramitas, all of the perfections. Yes, because then you know what happens? They're not your enemy anymore. Because it's very hard to be angry when you're filled with the causes of joy.
Also, Buddhists recognize the fact that whether you mean to have spiritual growth or not, suffering, which all life is suffering, you are going to inadvertently grow. So the more you suffer as a person, the more opportunities you have to inadvertently grow. And that one of the things Buddhists observed, which I absolutely agree with them, is it's kind of funny, but the more people grow, the less we tend to have these sort of they're my enemy kind of conflicts with. Because the thing about growth, what is growth really but wisdom? Wisdom to go, hey, I know we had a beef like a decade or more ago, but now I'm in a different place and I see that you're still a person I respect. This wasn't really that important. I like you as a person and I'm here to support you. We probably should not spend too much time together because we will probably conflict again. But know that, I respect you and I want the best for you. That is often what wisdom actually gets us, is the emotional space to observe the divine within others, even people we've had prior conflicts with. And they call it emotional detachment, but that emotional breathing space is often what wisdom actually earns for us. And what do we do with that emotional space? Often people take a moment to literally breathe and go, what's really going on here? And they then can approach it compassionately.
So I mentioned the 4 paths of creation spirituality earlier, and just quick for anyone who is not aware of those are the positive way, which is the path of awe and community and learning the art of savoring life, savoring flavor, just savor. It's a thing we don't do anymore. The second path is the negative way, the via negativa, and this is the path of darkness. This is the path of mystery, of letting go, of letting be, of knowing things are just what they are. It's the path where we experience grief. It is the path where we experience pain, and we know that they are real and they are part of life, but they're not all of life. The creative way, which is the third path, reminds us that we are here to be creative and and to bring forth whatever is in us into the world. That if there is a true purpose for any of us in this life, it's that whatever is deep down inside that you want to bring into the world, do that. If that's children, it's children. If that's books, that's books. If it's poetry, it's poetry. If it's delicious bread and baked goods, it's delicious bread and baked goods. Whatever that is, to bring that out. And the via transformativa, which is what I was talking about earlier, the transformative way, which reminds us to be constantly working towards justice and engaging in celebration and joy the whole time. And I wanted to bring this up because this is one of the things that really clicked with me so many decades ago when I started practicing CS, is that these are seen as a dance. They're not a path that you go from one to the next to the next. They're kind of those feet that you would put on the ground when you're teaching somebody how to dance. They're the places that your feet can land. And so when you're in one, you need to get to another one. You need to go to the next one. When you get trapped in suffering, when you get trapped in grief, you have 3 places you can go. Go somewhere beautiful where you can experience awe and have that bring you somewhere out. Bring that out. Find a place to celebrate, to find joy. Find somewhere where you can be creative. Those are the paths out of grief. And sometimes you just need to realize, I need to grieve. And that was the moment for me that really connected me to this movement and to this spirituality, because it's not really a theology, is the acknowledgement that loss and grief they're real. They're a part of our lives. They're not interruptions on the flow. They're just there. They're like a pebble in a river. They're just going to be there. Mm-hmm. And it's up to us to learn how to navigate those waters. It's not about rejecting it. So much of the mysticism and spirituality that you see in the world is, here, let me give you my 5-step plans to getting past grief. I went to my first funeral when I was 5. And that was for my grandpa Dorset. And you can hear, I still tell stories about him. Well, actually, I was 6. And I still tell stories about him. And he's still so present in my mind. And there are times when I look over at the picture I have of him over there, and I miss the letters he used to send. I was 6. I'm 46 now. That was 40 years ago. I went to his funeral. I still feel that. I still feel his absence. And it's okay sometimes to feel that absence. It's not okay to live there, though. And that's what I love about this analogy.
I think that's why, Buddhists say that life is suffering.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. If you're living your life and you're actually living it, you're going to meet people that you become emotionally more intertwined with. But at some point, there has to be a parting. One of you is going to part.
Yep.
Just because that is the nature of these very delicate bodies. And that loss is inevitable. But it is also a sign that you're living your life the way you're supposed to, the way it's intended to be. And it's just a part of life. And I think that's something that a lot of humans, and I would like to say capitalism tries to sell this, that you can somehow live life without loss. If you're doing it right, no, I'm so sorry, but at a certain point, what is it? Yes, all right, I did just watch the Muppet Christmas Carol. So again, I believe it's from the Dickens. Life is a series of meetings and partings, and I can't quite remember the entire quote because reasons. But that this is just how life is, son, yep. And that it is perfectly okay, and it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. Even though I got to be honest, sometimes when people are taken from us, or it just ends. It feels like if I had only done it differently, and that is the human brain doing weird things. And then Western society going, yes, feed that. Yes, if you just work harder. Yes, work harder for me, and somehow you won't lose anymore. No, that's a trap. But it's just, that's what I mean. Like, Buddhists are not like, yeah, go suffer. Like those little locusts from that Anna Kendrick Apocalypse movie. All the locusts.
Yes.
Oh God, I love that movie. It's so ridiculous. These locusts come down, these giant grasshoppers, and all they do is they yell, suffer! Which, boy, did that feel cathartic in its own way.
It did, and
it felt so Buddhist. Ways. I was like, these are some Buddhist ass locusts. But excuse me. But my point merely being, that's what the Buddhists are talking about. They're not talking about, life is meant to be terrible, so you should never try to have a good time or sleep in a soft bed. That is not what they're saying. It is okay to have a wonderful soft bed that just hugs you every night, and that you feel like you have an emotional, deep, abiding relationship. It is okay. But it's that eventually summer has to end in order for harvest to come, and then winter must come. And
Yep.
like the cycle continues, and that is just part of what it is to exist on this plane. That's what they're talking about. Because when I first heard like Buddhists going, "Oh, life is suffering," I was like, "Oh, that's kind of dark and unpleasant." Like that's nihilist. Like that's what I thought when I was very young and I first heard this. But that is not what they're trying to say. They're just saying the thing is you're going to love so many people. If you love with you a childlike heart, which we all should, we should love with abandon. We should love everybody and everything, just with absolutely no reservations. At some point, things have to end. And it does hurt because we've made a space for the love, and then the thing we love, it has nowhere to. And that is just how life is. And we have to just get used to this ebb and flow. Because life is not static. If it was, we would never grow. We would no more babies would ever be born if life was static.
I hate to use the cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. A seed has to die for a tree to be born. Like things have to change. Cats have to get into little puzzle fights with each other. I mean, it is just the way of things.
It is the way. Excuse me.
And
I
don't.
So.
And Jen, I don't have a lot of familiarity with Christian Science other than Jim Henson was also raised Christian Science. And in several books about him, it talks a lot about his experiences with that. In fact, his kids have talked a lot about how that affected their father. And I understand being weird about religion. I am weird about religion. I was raised in the Baptist church. My grandfather was a missionary Baptist preacher. My great grandfather was a Southern Baptist preacher. I, being the wonderful black sheep of the family that I am, converted to Catholicism when I was old enough to, for many reasons that I'm not going to get into, which made a lot of waves in the family, let's say. And I have experienced different issues in all of these places, and I understand that. To me, the importance of spirituality, the importance of religion, if we're going, and I don't think we should throw that word out, is what are the things that give you meaning? That is what it is really about. Religion comes from the Latin word religio, which means to link back. It's that thing that links us back. And that is what it is there. If it links us to our ancestors, if it links us to other people, if it links us to a feeling of being connected to nature or to God or to the basic interconnectedness that we have with each other, then that is the best of religion and what religion is for. Anything that tries to control you, anything that tries to tell you, if you can't tell, I'm very anti-authoritarian. Anything that tries to tell you who you can talk to, what you can do, that's a cult. That's dangerous. That's mind control. And do avoid those people.
But Charlie, the subbies demand it. They want their monarchy, Charlie. That way it's one less thing to think about. That's the thing.
That is a whole side
I
quest.
know,
We
it's
need
a
to
lot,
do that.
it's a lot,
We
right?
need to add that one to the list of
Yes,
things to talk
I know.
about.
Like I really do.
'Cause-
Like it is possible to be a liberated submissive, and which is like honestly probably my real work. Done for years in the BDSM community of like you can be a submissive and not like desire authoritarianism. Let me liberate all the submissives. But yeah.
So hello ACL.
Hello.
I would like to say that I am someone who is a big fan of dialectical thinking rather than sticking to either ors. I think that things can be both and not just
yeah,
either
I
or.
would say yes, you can have your cake and eat it too. And like freedom, like remember the song "Freedom is another word for nothing left to lose."
Yep.
Here is that is. Are you kidding? Nothing left to lose is my favorite place to be because there's no bad choice at that point. When I have nothing left to lose, whatever I choose is an improvement. I love rock bottom. Are you kidding? Oh my God. Like, this is a quirk of mine. My whole family is like, she weird, but yeah, this is Glory. I have always been that way of when it's like, Glory, you cannot make this any worse than it already is. It's like, finally free. All right. Now I can really get creative. I could do what I want because, again, nothing left to lose. I'm not bound anymore by trying to be risk averse. I love freedom, but freedom is this, this idea, hence the wisdom of no escape. Of once you are in a place where you cannot escape, you are entirely free to be yourself, to be true to yourself, and to think your thoughts honestly with yourself. That is liberating. To no longer be like internally censoring.
So basic dialectics are about a thesis and antithesis, an antithesis and a synthesis between the two, and they generally don't have to be directly opposed to each other. They can just be parallel. This is a problem that we have a lot in science, is that we discover two things that appear to be true that are apparently contradictory to each other, and thus more research is done to figure out how they actually work together, and or if one is right and the other is in fact wrong. This is a good way to actually determine the difference between causation and correlation in a lot of studies, is when you're getting that kind of conflicting information, it is not always wrong.
Yeah, you can have two different conclusions and they are both accurate and correct. And they do not directly conflict with each other because that is the infinite of the universe. So
I see you saying that you can let's see, you need to get rid of everything. You'll love it and you'll hate it. So
you can like be free but also enjoy warm coats.
As somebody who is
not mutually exclusive, it's not a binary. The universe is not a binary system.
As somebody who has had their life burned down around them for various reasons over my long life, I have been in many a place where I had nothing. I hated it, but it was one of the best experiences I have ever had. The events that led us to move to Oakland, which I have on other streams on other channels and gone into great detail about in the past, led us to a place where we had pretty much nothing. We were going out there to completely start over. Our lives had completely collapsed to the point where we decided it was better for us to move all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Those kitties, they're having gladiatorial fights.
They are. They're just like, you're on the internet.
Yeah, like the internet is recording. It is time for our performance.
They know the internet is for cats, and
they're not wrong. I mean, they are little deities. So,
but when
you haven't lived till you've like constructed furniture out of found boxes, and this is our life now. It's wild, but okay.
But when we were out there, we remember this entire thing as an amazing adventure, and it was at the time. We knew that we basically could only take with us what would fit into the car. Now, unfortunately, that was a green. It was a Ford, wasn't it? Ford Probe.
Yeah.
Which, if you're not familiar with this vehicle, it is tiny. It is not a big vehicle.
You talking about the Ford Protege or something?
No, the Probe. They ended up moving Probe over.
I thought you said Ford Pro.
It was a two-door.
Yeah, it was a two-door Ford Probe that had
Okay,
a
I gotta look this up. This sounds
hatchback. It was not a big car, and we knew that we had to fit our entire life into this car to get us across country. And they ended up moving the brand to another car company, and so it ended up
the
becoming
Probe GT.
yeah. It was a tiny car,
Like they're trying to make a teeny tiny sedan. Why y'all like this?
and so we got there and we had nothing, but it was the adventure of getting across country. Luckily, my husband's job was willing to pay for us to travel, so it was an adventure to get out there. When we got there and finally found a place to live, we didn't know anyone, and our neighbors welcomed us with open arms. Just by coincidence, they had just gotten a new set of furniture and were trying to figure out what to do with their old furniture, and asked if we would like to have it. And so we moved into our apartment and instantly had a couch, chairs, a table, things that we could not have fit into our little car. And it was such an amazing experience. And I'm not saying everyone's experiences are going to be like that, because it was terrifying. We had never been to California. We had never been that far west of the Mississippi River before. We knew no one out here. If anything went wrong, everyone we knew was 3,000 miles away and would not be able to easily get to us. And it was simultaneously that whole Dickinsonian line, which is why I love the opening of Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. We didn't know how we were going to put food on the table through a lot of that. We didn't know how we were going to get through a lot of the issues that we were having, but we were fortunate enough to find this amazing community of people that just welcomed us in with open arms and took care of us. In fact, the day we moved in, we didn't even have to figure out how to do food, because Mrs. Leet went, I love that her name is, the family name was Leet, which is just so appropriate, but baked us a casserole. She asked if we had any food allergies, and we were like, no, not really. And she just disappeared in the house. She came back in about an hour with a full casserole and all of the sides that you would want with it, a box of cookies so we would have a dessert, and a pie for the oven to put in the freezer so we would have it for later, because sometimes you just get snacky. And like she basically started filling our refrigerator up. That's so sweet. It's one of those things that this is not an isolated experience in my life, where the worst things are happening and the best things are happening at the same time. I can think of the relationship that I have with my brother. I probably wouldn't have if he didn't get cancer. And it was a terrible time, and he's doing better now. He had to have a full stem cell transplant, which that was a coin toss whether that would just be the thing that did him in or not. But he's doing better now. But it was terrible, but it made him realize he needed to connect with his son, with his grandchildren. He needed to connect with his father, with his siblings, because he had multiple. He had just kind of thrown himself out of the family. And so the best and the worst can kind of come together. It's a long-winded way to get there, but that's where I was heading. And hello, Jules. How are you doing? I hope everything is well. Wanted to say hi when I saw you in there. See, spiritual darkness can mean something evil. To be on. Okay, so I am not. First of all, I want to make clear that I am not saying that if you use the term darkness to mean evil, that is you being a bad person. Decolonizing is about understanding how things have been used to engineer artifices of control around us. So if you understand that a lot of the Southern Baptists, especially preachers who latched onto this terminology and have really ingrained it into a lot of the dialogue that we have today, as well as your Cotton Mathers and stuff in the Congregationalist tradition, did so with ill intent. Once you are able to liberate yourself from that, then you are not susceptible to its control. And that's what decolonization is about. It's not necessarily throwing away a metaphor. It's understanding what the metaphor is, why it was constructed to be used the way that it was, and not using it in the same way. You just turned your microphone on. Did you have something to say?
Well, so even when you're looking into like some of its fictional use, in Star Wars you have the light and the dark, and the thing is, though, when you actually start looking closely at the Sith, who explore the darkness, walk the dark path, the darkness actually isn't the evil part. It's their obsession with control.
Yep.
That leads them into evil.
Yeah. Control and power.
Control and power.
The force, not the darkness
fear
itself.
Yeah.
That's a really good point to bring out, because using it in a way like that,
Star Wars.
You knew he was going to bring Star Wars into this.
I would be disappointed if he didn't. It is the way.
you knew that he was going to do this, and yes, the controlling of others.
Again, why? Why are you trying to control other people? Like you should you should barely be interested in controlling yourself, But rather than what you should be interested in is acting compassionately towards yourself and others, and the control then becomes unnecessary.
Because the interesting thing about this, just to continue on the Star Wars for a moment, and while I do not expect everyone to have seen all of the Star Wars that exists,
you mean like other people
homework.
are not also
people don't have to be like us. George Lucas,
their parents' marriage wasn't based on Star Wars.
George Lucas actually wanted to clarify this, and in the Clone Wars, there is an arc called the Mortis arc. And it's easy to, if you can remember that word, then you can go to Disney Plus and just find every episode is titled something Mortis, something of Mortis, every episode in that plot arc, where he wanted to actually explain what balance in the Force meant. And in here, we meet three figures. We meet the daughter, the brother, and the father. And the daughter is the embodiment of the light side. The brother is the embodiment of the dark side. And the father is the mediating balance between them. And when you actually look at the idea that he was putting forward in there, it's a lot more what I'm talking about. The son is not evil. See, the light and darkness in that context is very much from his own pet love of Stoicism, like my own love of Stoicism, where the light side is about being restrained, about being self-controlled. It is about being disciplined, whereas the dark side is about being motivated more by your passions and allowing your emotions to have more sway over you. The son is not an evil character, even though he is the literal embodiment of the dark side. What makes him evil is his actions result in evil, is that he has no self-control. When he is angry, he lashes out.
Yes.
There is no restraint there. And that lashing out like a wild storm.
Out of the room so that he does not inflict pain on others. He's like, no, you all must have me. Blah.
And this idea of, with one being kind of unfettered and just completely loosed emotions, and the overly controlled one. And remember, the Jedi are not good. No,
they're not.
And
they take children away from their parents against their parents' will at a very young age. No goodies do that. No good people take toddlers away from their parents against their parents' will.
Well, and that's, as ACL's saying, you have two options, light or dark, but that's also the false dichotomy that's put forward.
Again, it's a fake binary.
It's a fake binary, and actually binary is the way of the Sith.
And if you actually pay attention to the actual diegetic purpose of the story, the plan in the stories, it's about bringing balance to the force. If it's all light side, the force is not in balance. If it's all dark side, the force is not in balance. The whole point of our heroes in these stories is they're the ones who are trying to bring balance, where you have that access to your emotions, which, especially in the prequel era, we do not see any of the Jedi having. They're so cold, they're so reserved, they can't see other people scheming right in front of them.
All those children need hugs.
Right?
I'm fine. But those babies in their little robes need hugs.
And so it's about finding that balance.
Yoda, just hug the babies. Oh, welcome to things that my family has been discussing for literally decades. Just hug the babies. We're the Ewoks. Hug them. They're teddy bears.
Oh, that is one of my favorite scenes. Okay, I'm sorry. I am a big Star Wars fan. If you did not know, like over there, like the Star Wars parade of posters begins. In Aftermath by Chuck Wendig, which is a great book, even if it wasn't Star Wars. Chuck is a very good writer. We learn in there in one of the vignettes that when the Ewoks found out about the Galactic Civil War, they felt so bad for people. They basically volunteered their service as emotional support Ewoks to people throughout the galaxy. This is canon.
I'd be like hopping on a ship so fast.
Yeah, soldiers throughout the galaxy got themselves emotional support Ewoks.
Like, just let me have a huggy, and then let me like brush your back hair.
And I just absolutely I love that. That just, I don't know, that made me
such sweethearts. I know.
That melted my heart just a bit.
Yeah. That's what those Jedi babies need. They need emotional support Ewoks.
But those are very good books, by the way. If you have not read them and you're curious about the extended universe or just want a good sci-fi book, Chuck Wendig wrote. They're not the best of the Star Wars books, but they're way up there on the list.
Yes, I sent Tom a reel about Star Wars and Philippines. I think I may have sent it to you as well, Charlie.
Yeah.
About like they're actually speaking Tagalog in there. So, hey, no shock. Filipinos also in a galaxy far, far away, as I would expect of Filipinos. They get everywhere.
So if we're still talking Star Wars, I can see some validity to this. But going back to what I was saying earlier, when we're talking about our lives and our personal experiences, this is the dichotomy we have to be careful about, is ascribing moral agency to inanimate things. And this is something, Glory, I know Glory knows this because she also grew up in the land of storms, and wow, the wind has taken the house away.
We have both hurricanes and tornadoes. Yeehaw!
The storms don't care. The storms aren't.
They don't care whether you're, loving same-sex people or whether you are pretty much paying for the roof on the Southern Baptist Church. Weather cares not.
Weather doesn't care.
It's just a dice roll of statistics.
And light doesn't care. Darkness does not care. Now, this is where what we were talking about earlier with practical naivete really comes into play. If it is helpful to you in your meditation, in your practice, to ascribe these qualities, because it helps you to achieve something that you are struggling with. I know many people who have dealt with addictions over the years who have used language like this to help fortify themselves to be able to, resist the urges that they, keep saying they, let's be honest, that we are struggling with those problems. And that can be helpful. The important part of that phrase, though, is the practical naivete, that you realize for this purpose, I'm just going to let myself be innocent. I'm just going to let myself be a little babe in the woods and assume and ascribe all of these qualities to something that is inanimate, something that does not innately have them. Darkness is just darkness. Light is just light. And my camera is doing crazy things to the light from this candle, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to pick it up again. But everything else is a poetic add-on. It is something that we have added to draw meaning from it. Because this is one of the things that makes us human. And when I say that, I mean, when anthropologists are studying a grave site that they find, one of the things that they use to determine whether it is a hominin that they have found or something in the Australopithecus genus is if they find tools. Tool making, meaning making, this pulling of meaning from the world is something that we as a genus, not just as species, do. And so anything that we wish to ascribe meaning to can be helpful and good for us at the time. But where I would have
The universe has no meaning.
correct.
That's
There you go.
The universe is neutral. Everything in the universe, which includes us, is neutral. Again, back to Buddhism. All that stresses, when you feel stressed, it is because your expectation of how an event was going to play out did not happen. And you are now stressed because whatever you thought was going to happen did not happen. But whatever happened or did not happen is actually neutral. It is just a thing, and it exists. It happened or it did not happen. There's no morality to the puddle that exists on the ground. The puddle is not moral or immoral. The sidewalk is not moral or immoral. You walking through it is not a moral thing or event, but you're stressed because now you got a wet foot. Because you were walking on that sidewalk, not planning for a wet foot, and now you have a wet foot and you're upset that you're stressed because you feel the stress and then you make a moral judgment. But the universe itself and everything within it, including us and all events that happen within the universe, are neutral. They are just things that happen, things that exist. There is no more inherent morality anywhere in the universe. Show me an atom, show me a molecule with morals. There's none. Because it's something we made up. It's absolutely imaginary. It's like saying, why are you not setting a place for my imaginary friend I did not tell you about? Well, because it's your imaginary friend and not my imaginary friend. There's a place setting for my imaginary friend, but I don't think they like to share. This is all things we're making up in our head. It is not real.
So
we are barely real.
Oh, that's a whole topic. We can do
quantum mechanics. You would know the truth of what I speak.
Once you get into the,
I know. Yeah.
So when I see the statement to reach your God or goddess, you have to view yourself as baggage. I'm not
sure what that even means. I'm like, what?
So I have my Bridget over here, and I did not choose her. I did not have a choice in this situation. I was not given a vote. I was not any of this. The dreams started. I started realizing what the dreams were. I started making connections. All of those meanings, all of those layers of connection are things that happened in my brain. Were they just a series of really interesting dreams about fire and a woman working at a forge and having wonderful conversations with me? They could have been just dreams. That's 100% possible. The fact that I then, in the span of a month, created 74 pieces of artwork that in a style that I've never worked in before. That's what leads me to make the assumption that something else much more spooky was going on there. I didn't have to leave anything behind. I didn't have to view myself in any way. My experiences with Bridget, with Caradwin, with any of the Anamkara that are very present in my life, none they have asked very little of me. In fact, one of the things that I have actively done is made frith with them, in that I basically was like, you gave me images. What is the thing that I should do for you? I get the inclination that I should learn Irish. I start learning Irish. That is the thing that I did. I lost nothing. I gave up nothing. In fact, I had things added to me. I had good things added to me. I have had so many more blessings enter my life since I have started this relationship with Bridget as an Anamkara, which, by the way, means soul friend. I don't know if everyone's familiar with this term. In and amongst all the variant varieties of Celtic spirituality, we are encouraged to make soul friends, Anamkara. They can be spirits, energies that we encounter. They can be people in our actual lives that nourish us and give us strength and help us out. It's a phrase I use a lot, and I just realized I used it quite a bit and didn't explain what it meant when I did it. But she is one of my Anamkara. She is one of my soul friends. Is she purely a figment of my imagination? I have no way of knowing. It's the Matrix dilemma. Anytime we talk about anything in religion, it's the Matrix. It is purely the Matrix dilemma. I have no ability to double blind test my existence. I don't know what is a function of my own mind and what is anything on the outside. You can take this to its existentialist extreme and be like, we don't even know that other people are real, except for, their interactions with them. And trust me, if this was my reality, I would have done something very different with everything, because
Tom keeps trying to convince me that this is a bubble universe in my own making, and I'm like, don't make me have to do the emotional work to reevaluate this feeling.
It is.
Don't let this be my holographic universe.
It isn't. Don't worry.
Oh, thank God.
Hey.
By the way, Brian, take me to a better one.
Working on it.
Yeah, it's the Boltzmann's brain conundrum.
There we go.
It really is. And
I know, what a shame Tom has to work.
We could. That might actually be something that we can do an entire
Write it down, baby.
episode on.
We all have ADHD and won't remember.
Oh, actually, I have that one on the list, because Boltzmann's brains are something that I am fascinated by and kind of obsessed about all the time. I've got 5 different story ideas of how to incorporate them in stories. For those of you who don't know what this is, very, very simply put, a Boltzmann's brain is essentially the idea that a system with sufficient complexity would operate as an intelligence. And there would be no way of knowing if it's random chaos or an actual being. We don't know if we are a Boltzmann's brain. We don't know if the universe itself is a Boltzmann's brain, and we are just components and cogs within it. It is a thought experiment that was devised to basically test scientific models of the universe. And the original idea was, if your model keeps creating these brains, then the model is flawed. And then they found out that no matter how complex they make the models, the brains keep appearing in them and start self-organizing and start doing things. They have not been able to get rid of them. And it's a very fascinating subject. We will definitely go into that in a future one of these. I'll try to find some resources that are simply written so that I can share them with you so that you can read it. So I just put into the chat, this is how Anamkara is spelled. Anamkara is simply an older Irish expression that means soul friend. Actually, I would say almost everything that everyone does is brainless. Because most of us act out of instinct. So,
All reaction.
Yes, there's only action and reaction. And without...
Some of us are more flatworms than others.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my mother here, but she's dead, so I'm fine with it. The woman just reacted all the dang time. I was like, "Do you have no intent in this world? You just react. You're like a flatworm. All you do is react to the poke." And she's like, "What? It's got me this far." I'm like, "Has it? Or have you just been really lucky to have other people kind of drag you through life?" I say as the person who feels like, she's on my back. Like Yoda, riding me into the swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait.
Sorry.
My question is, can we use that instead of spirit animals as something less cringy? I agree.
Yeah.
Because, again, let us let the indigenous folks just have their things and not impose weird Western Christian crap on it. Oh, God. Just have we not done enough to them?
Yeah. So I had originally intended for the stream to be about 2 hours long. We are coming up on that in 7 minutes. So I'm going to put the question to the panel. Do you feel that we have discussed what we need to discuss? Do you have more that you want to say? Or where are you at? Do you need to take a break? How's everybody doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm fine.
I just wanted to
the whole time because I'm afraid of my delay. So,
what you could always do is just pretend you're in high school and raise your hand, and then we can see that you're wanting to say something, and then you don't have to worry about the delay so much. Maybe.
Like what? Yeah. Like what? What are your? Is this the last talking point you have for?
I had a couple more that
what
I was.
You got? Let's see your little stripies.
So
darkness is the womb of the chaos. Okay, Cosmos. Excuse me, Freud.
which is pretty much what we've been talking about this whole time. Without even bringing that one up, I wanted to bring up the very common motif that I see in so much world mythology of darkness as the wise mother, and the idea of the Black Madonna, which is, as I mentioned earlier, something that I've had a deep devotion to. It feels like my entire life. In fact, I have an entire altar to her in the other room where I have statues of Our Lady of Montserrat. I have my Mama Shkivona in there. I have quite a few I've been collecting over the years. Notre Dame sur Terre, which is one of my absolute favorites. And it's this interesting correlation that a lot of people have found between these monastic institutions and various centers of learning that enshrined within them a black Madonna that then, how do I say this, focused more on actual wisdom and helping the people in their communities rather than the imperial control that we see in the rest of the church. There's an interesting correlation to where these chapels popped up and the type of spirituality that developed in each of those places. And I'm trying to find words for this. My brain is struggling at the moment.
Show and tell, because she's in my divine feminine.
Yes,
deck.
the divine feminine deck, which is
you
beautiful.
have yours entirely, but I dug it out when you were doing the prayer earlier.
Because the Black Madonna is such a beautiful image And it is one of the things that cuts through this. There are a lot of questions as to who she is meant to represent. Almost all of the statues have a phrase in them from the Song of Songs at the base of the statue, which I am black, but I am beautiful, which is one of the. If you've never read the erotic poetry of the of the that's included in the scriptures, it is an amazing thing. She is a powerful symbol that has brought so much meaning and purpose to people's lives. And again, it's interesting the places that she shows up. She shows up in Antwerp, where we have such a large Begin movement, and we see Hadovich and all of the things that she taught with the access to understanding spiritual darkness and really bringing compassion forward in all that she does. There was a shrine to the Black Madonna, several shrines of the Black Madonna in the British Isles, that all of which were destroyed in the dissolution of the monasteries. And so we have ideas of where they were. You have the Seven Sisters in southern Italy. Mm-hmm. And those are the more interesting ones, in that, one, they all have epic tales that really need like Marvel Cinematic Universe movies.
Is the Seven Sisters not part of the Greek stuff as well, or am I thinking of the wrong?
Well, see, that's the thing, is there is an interesting relationship to them. Alessandra Belloni.
I'm just trying to, like, in my head, like, partly it's like a timeline of lore and mythology, and that's all. I'm not trying to like make some weird book, really. Like I'm just like literally thinking, like, hold up.
There's in southern Italy, there are 7 major shrines to the Black Madonna, and many have connected them to either the Seven Sisters of the Greek pantheon or others. A lot of them have noticed similarities between these statues, their depictions, and images of Cipele, the mother of the gods in Greco-Roman religion. One of the statues may have originally been an Isis, like, from Egypt.
Say, like, the more you describe the Black Madonna, so from my religious background, I'm really not familiar with the Black Madonna. Like, it just somehow it doesn't come in. However, the more y'all describe the Black Madonna and the lore and associations, the more I'm like, wait, are y'all talking about Lilith?
I have thought about that so much.
From Sumatra, the, like, who is a, I don't want to say deity, but I also don't want to say spirit, because depending on the culture, she has a different reference. But Lilith is also like, yes, it's the same Lilith from Adam's round 1 first wife. And, you know, but she went off on her own because she was not about to submit to him. Because, yeah, have you met men? Anyway, I went there. But, like, it's just, I'm like, yes, Lilith. But Lilith, who then went off on her own to be among apes, by the way. And, like, so when Adam and Eve left Eden, there was a whole bunch of people already there, i.e. Lilith's children, who then later, like, shows up in Sumatran and Mesopotamian lore, but has changed into the angel of death who comes for babies in the night. And I was like, oh, this is dark. And, like, again, that colonization of dark is the bad versus, no, this is the ultimate kindness. Because if you are a mother up in the middle of the night with a baby with, like, a respiratory or colic or whatever, you don't want just any spirit to come take your baby away. You want a spirit of death to come take your baby away, who will cradle your infant in kindness. It always makes me tear up. I love Lilith. but that is who mothers pray to when their babies in Sumatra and Mesopotamia were sick in the middle of the night.
Samaria.
Samaria.
My brain was clicking like
Sorry,
yours
yes.
was. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Dyslexia.
Oh no,
But
I
that
get
is
it.
who they pray to, or did pray to, was so that their baby would be loved, even if their baby was not going to be able to survive. And the more I thought about it, I was like, but also yes. And this, so again, the more y'all describe the Black Madonna, I'm like, wait, is this Lilith just like reborn through Christianity? Because wild, and also so glad that she will never be able to be unintertwined.
Talking about that though, that pulling that into writing, because we are all writers. In my adventure that I have on Vela, I have a huge pantheon that I've been building, and the guide to the underworld, when you are on that edge, will come and hold your hand and let you know that it's okay, because it happens in the prologue. Somebody dies in the prologue. She's trying to deliver a message, and she's like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. So they kind of stand by and let her, and then, okay, it's time to go. And so you were talking about that, Glory, and I'm like, oh.
Of that, like, this is a more Western Industrial Revolution idea that death is a bad thing, versus the Buddhist idea of death is inevitable, and the ancient Middle Eastern idea of death is a friend who comes and ushers you away in kindness. No, death is not an unwelcome friend. And if you think about when death comes for people, most people, it is an end of suffering. It is a respite, but also you just died. You have no idea what you're doing. You're just born into a new kind of existence, and you need someone there to usher you, not unlike when we are born into this plane. And so when we talk about, as a child, I would hear, my teachers talking about ancient times and all of this, and they'd always really have this moralistic view of these people were simpler and less sophisticated, versus us. We are modern, and we are so smart, and as an adult finding out all of this is like, excuse me, apparently the level of humans has always been very wise and
less sophisticated. Have you seen the pyramids?
How about the hanging gardens? Oh my God, are you kidding? That's brilliant. What a wonderful way to manage temperature control while also growing all sorts of it's pretty genius and beautiful and pleasant to look at. But it's not even just say technologically they are sophisticated, but also, let us say, philosophically, this is sophisticated viewpoints of death is a friend who comes for us so that we are not alone in our new birth.
I have often wondered what the connection between the Black Madonna and Stories of Lilith are, and I've played with that a little bit, and that's actually going to be something that's going to be going out on the Substack in the not too distant future. Link in the doobly-doo if anybody's interested in that. One of the things that I find fascinating about the Black Madonna, and the reason anytime we talk about her we're very vague, is for example, Notre Dame Sauterre, Our Lady Under the Earth, which was the statue at Chartres Cathedral in France, is believed to have actually been a previously existing Celtic statue that was venerated by the Druids, that was then brought in and used as an icon in the church. And we unfortunately don't know which of the Celtic goddesses she was, but we see this with a lot of these statues, is they seem to have had this prior life as either an Egyptian goddess, a Greek goddess, a Celtic goddess. And the other thing that all of the statues and depictions have in common is they're either extremely dark wood, they're painted black, They are covered in ebony. They are all they all have this appearance that many have tried to ascribe as just soot from the candles and whatnot. And when most of them are cleaned, they are still black. Like, it is the way that they were made. It's not. It's not just that they got dirty over time. Again, this association of it's not really black. It's just dirty that we were talking about earlier. And so a lot of us have kind of started seeing this idea of the Black Madonna as kind of a catch-all for the divine feminine, that she does appear to have taken on the character of all of these previous goddesses, that she is the mother of the gods, that she is Cybele. She has been compared to Oshun from the Aruba faith, which I do not personally feel qualified to talk about. And if we can ever find a practitioner of the Yoruba faith that would like to join us, I would gladly sit down, be very quiet, and listen the entire time, because I find it a fascinating practice and faith. But like Tom said in the chat, there's Nyx.
Yeah, I was about to say, Tom's also like going, is this also Nyx Nox?
These a lot of these statues seem to have been so venerated by their community that when they converted to Christianity, and this is where they're also referred to specifically as the Black Madonna, is none of them are referred to as Marys. This is the other interesting thing about them, is they are all either, if the French ones are all Notre Dame, whatever, all of the Italian ones are all the Madonna of whatever. None of them are actually referred to as Mary, where they will have statues in the church that are very clearly this is the Virgin Mary and this is Our Lady. And they're labeled differently, which again has made many people think that they are separate and distinct from one another. Other people say Mary is one of the Black Madonna, is an embodiment of the Black Madonna, and that's perfectly fine. The wonderful thing about this is the ambiguity of it. I don't know if she is Cybele. I don't know. Though I find the stories of Cybele very interesting. I find them very compelling, and I like the idea of a queen who rolls around on a chariot pulled by lions. I mean, like, yeah, are you gonna mess with her? She was she was a goddess from Asia Minor, from the she was a Scythian goddess that was so popular that she was not only imported to Greece and Rome, but they added her to the Olympians. She is the unofficial 13th Olympian, and in all of the writings was on the list. And she was generally first. She was stronger than Zeus in all of the stories about her. Zeus feared her, as did Poseidon and Hades, because she gave birth to all of the gods, which connected her with the concept of Rhea and some of the others. This tradition is so strong in southern Italy, where there are prayers to her that are continued to this day that refer to her as Mother of the Gods, that have been in practice this whole time. When I say that these faiths grew up differently, for example, Mama Scavona down in southern Italy has, for as long as anyone has records, had a priesthood of non-binary folk. They are generally men who dress as women who officiate her rituals. The church is opened, they come in, the priest sits down, and they perform her rituals on her behalf. There is a blurring of gender norms, of sexuality, of all of the things in this community that are so out of character for Southern Italian Catholicism, that are associated with this shrine of the Black Madonna and the devotees that go there. And that's when we're talking about darkness as mystery, darkness as wise mother, it is amazing that where these traditions persisted, those colonial ideas of darkness is bad, of othering other people for who they are, what they love, and their gender identity, typically did not follow. And in a lot of ways, to a lot of us who have been studying in on this for so long, really feels like it is this liberating gift of the dark. Like she is there reminding us of where we came from, of our history, of our past. And is she Lilith? I have sat back on so many nights thinking about that one question. Because, and I've had this discussion before, and again, this would have to be like an entire series to explain all of the ideas that get us to this point. But in the Kabbalah, there's the idea that the first atom that was created was the Adam Kadmon, the primordial atom, and all souls were contained within him. Everyone who would ever be was in this one being. And I feel, and this is all talked about in the same books that tell us about Lilith, that she was made in the same way as Adam, that she also had the breath of God breathed into her, that she was made from the same clay. Would there not be a Lilith Kadmon? Would this not be something that we would see? Is this
like,
not?
because God didn't destroy Lilith after that.
No.
God let Lilith go do her thing. Like, that is the wildest part I love, by the way.
Because
is that after Lilith is like, I am not for this guy. And Adam's like, yeah, she's not for me. Does God go, well, you are no more? Like God supposedly did with other past creations that didn't quite work out. And you have to platypus. It's okay. Anyway. I'm just talking to theology. But no, God's like, okay, Lilith, what do you want to do? And Lilith's like, I got places. I just want to go explore. You know what? I'm going to go explore. Best of luck. Bye-bye. And then when Adam and Eve do leave Eden, there's all these people to greet them. Where do they come from? They did not exist before Lilith went out there. Lilith getting all good times with somebody. But like God did not take away her divinity or anything. She's made exactly the same as Adam, except she was round two. And she was not made from Adam's rib. She was made exactly the same way as Adam. She has all the same divinity as Adam does.
And for anyone familiar with the Genesis account, this is how the rabbis squared the circle of the Adam and Eve created from the soil in chapter 1 with the Eve that's made from Adam's rib in chapter 2. That was a different person. That was Lilith. That was made from the ground. Eve, Chava came from the rib. Mm-hmm. Later. So it's that story of them being made literally from the earth, from the same clay. And it's an interesting thing to contemplate. And it's one of those things that when I think, because I would classify her in this place. And when you actually start looking into the literature of how many first and second wave feminists latched on to the idea of Lilith and wrote amazing pieces in Ms. Magazine and so many others talking about her and making her really an icon in ways that she had never been for Western culture, especially American culture. Before that, there is this liberation. Her sin, if there was a sin, and see that I think is the biggest gross misreading of her story, is she was told she and Adam were created. Adam said, okay, be subservient to me. She said, no. He said, if this is going to work, you are going to serve me. She said, I was made equal to you. We are equal. He said, no, you are going to serve me. And then, and Gloria alluded to this, she then recites the sacred name of God and flies away.
She's like, no. And God's like, go with my blessing.
Yeah, just whoop. She's
not, no, you must be unmade again, as God did with other creations. No, God did not unmake Lilith. or the first Eve or whatever. God's like, okay, do your thing, honey. And she's like, I'm off to explore the world. Bye-bye.
Yeah, she just says the name of God and flies off.
And then there's all these people waiting for Adam and Eve when they come out of Eden. Where did they come from, I wonder?
And it is such...
so that is what we have. Essentially, it implies we have two mothers and one father in our Western creation myth. Because we are all of two mothers. We have both Eves within us genetically.
And this is where she inspires so much, especially in the early second wave feminists that see this icon from these old stories. Like it's that moment where you read something that happened, like I said, like you were talking about earlier, this assumption that in the past they were just dumb and evil. And then you read these stories and you're like, wait, isn't she the good guy? Isn't she the heroine? Did y'all not realize that you're the baddies? Like, I don't understand. And seeing that liberation, that to me is the gift of all of the ideas that come with the Black Madonna. When I talk about Mama Shkivona means mother of slaves, because one of the many miracles associated with her is that a slave ship crashed on shore and a storm broke out the window of the church and lightning started flashing from her statue, striking the chains of all of the enslaved people, snapping them off. And every time the slavers went to grab them, they got struck by lightning. Like, she protected them and made them free. That's part of her legendarium. That's part of the stories that go around with her. She also protected a lot of people that, like, there's a story about her doing a similar thing to a gay couple that fled into the church because the city was going to stone them, and she threw lightning at all the people that picked up rocks. Like, she is the mother of the oppressed. She is the mother of liberation. And this is something that you see in all of these stories of the Black Madonna, of this amazing figure in Europe that is not discussed so much, because we talk about the subservient Mary, but not this brilliantly powerful, divine, like, literally breaker of chains and liberator of the people. Like, these traditions are there and are part of this whole thing. They've been there the whole time. But of course, people who have an interest in not having women be powerful or to speak with their own voice don't push these stories. They want these stories to not be heard. And they feed into this idea of this liberating darkness. What does the Black Madonna ask of her followers? To dance? Mama Shkivona, for example, is believed to have taught various rhythms that are good for dancing that can help people deal with melancholy and sadness. So dance, find joy, come to my shrine, be here all night into the darkness of the night with me, and dance and sing and dance and sing and find all the joy that you can. This is what she asks. It's a very different story than the one that we normally hear, and one that, for someone like me, speaks volumes. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring her up. And I'm talking a lot. If anybody has questions or comments, butt in. Because if you can't tell, these are things I like talking about.
I'm just trying not to cough in these headphones. I will be right back. I need to get water.
Alrighty.
Sounds good.
And so the last topic that I had on the schedule tonight is I wanted to talk about darkness as a friend. And since Glory has walked away, I will say it for both of us. When I pass, may I meet either Neil Gaiman's or Terry Pratchett's death. Maybe they be the one that meets me on the other side. someone who is there just for kindness, just because. There's a wonderful line in Sandman by Neil Gaiman where Death is talking about how she used to believe that her work was such drudgery because so many people died and she had to go and she had to lead them off to the sunless lands, and it was just so much. And then she realized the moral of the story that we all have to realize, it's not about her. All they need is a smile. All they need is someone to be there with joy and peace in their heart and to just take their hand and walk them on to where they're going. And she's such a beautiful embodiment of this unknowing because she doesn't know where they go. She doesn't know what's in the sunless lands. That's not for her to go. She doesn't go. She doesn't go with them. She takes them to the gates of the sunless lands. Why is it called the sunless lands? Because that's what they call it. Do they know if there's a sun in the sunless lands? Well, it's not technically on this plane, so there may not be stars there, so it kind of makes sense to call it that, maybe. But all people want, all people need is that kindness. And over the years, I've learned from my own practice. And to me, that's what this is really about. When we were talking earlier about religion and spirituality and what these mean, to me, it's about practice. It's what you do. It's not about what you believe. It's about how you live your life and how that affects and changes you and makes good for the world around you. And in my practice, darkness is the most beautiful thing because it is always with us. It is always there to embrace us. Darkness is the one thing that will never leave us. And it's an interest, and I forgot who said this, and I was tearing through books trying to find where I heard this, and I cannot remember it. If anybody lets me, figures it out after the stream is over, or if you find out now and put it in chat, but if afterwards, if you leave a comment, I'll pin the comment so that they can get credit for this. But light is fleeting. Light is there and then it is gone. The darkness is always there.
Mm-hmm. No,
it is
that's what I was
always
about to say.
welcoming. It is always inviting.
Light has to do. Darkness is always there. It doesn't have to do anything to exist.
And when you get over the fear of the unknown, and it's not that I don't have fear. I hate equivocating about things. Hello, Heather. I hate to equivocate about things, but I want to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from. I'm not saying that I am not afraid of death. I'm not saying that I'm not afraid of, what might happen in a month or a year's time. But I don't think about it. And it's not because I push it out of my mind. It's because I know that I don't know. Like I can tell you experiences that I've had that make me think that there probably is an afterlife. But again, go back to our Boltzmann's brains, right? I've
had to resign myself that there may be an afterlife and my mother's already there.
Right.
And I'm going to have to deal with her again. It's been so nice these last 10 years. It was so quiet, y'all. It's been so quiet.
See, I'm Buddhist and there's reincarnation after that. So it's like, or
I definitely don't want my mother to be on anyone
Nirvana. And it's like, which one, it sounds pretty terrible to go through it all over again, but.
Well, in my time with the Buddhists, I have to say, I took the Bodhisattva vow.
Reincarnated forever.
I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to go into my peri-nirvana till everybody else comes in. Because when I was hanging out with the Buddhists, I took the Bodhisattva vow.
Oh no, so. not the diamond promise. Yes.
Yeah. So
I did too. How dare? Is that why we're here together? Oh crap!
That might be why we're here together.
Have you all taken the diamond promise? Nuts! I'm so sorry. We're gonna be here forever. At least till humans stop being.
We're going to turn the lights out on the universe when everybody else goes.
God, why? Why did I make the diamond promise? Oh, God. And I'm absolutely convinced I dragged Tom into this too. Like that in every reincarnation, Tom and I somehow have to know each other. We're entwined forever. It's the foolhardiness when I was young and stupid thousands of years ago. Not that I'm not now, but when I was like fresh and young and stupid. Yep. Not the diamond, promise. Oh no. Here we are. No wonder we are the psychic riders of the apocalypse. Because we're the fools who made the promise a couple thousand years ago to see humanity through this nonsense. 200,000 years later. Finally oblivion.
So on the reincarnation thing, there's an idea in the old Celtic legendarium that when we die, we find out that we were actually two people. There's the soul, the vital life force that is us, and there's that thing that we made throughout that lifetime that is the collection of our memories. That bit that was the collection of our memories just hangs out after death. When you're talking to your ancestors, that's what you're talking to, is this kind of construct that they built throughout their life of all of their memories and everything that they are. But the part of them that was truly them will get on the boat and will sail out to sea and will have the experience that they have until at some point they realize it is time for another adventure, and they get back on the boat and they come back across to be reincarnated into another life, because doing anything for all eternity is dull, which is the most Irish statement I've ever heard in my life. Like, eternal bliss, you're in the island of apples, everything is eternal bliss. Yeah, it's so boring. Like, it was bliss yesterday, it's bliss today, everything's just great. Well, let's go chase a dragon. Like, such a Celtic way of looking at the world. But I don't know that I believe that story, but I love that story because, again, oddly compatible with Buddhism, that the skandhas are left behind. the buckets, the aggregate that you were in life is left behind, and whatever you is you, that little bit of bodhicitta, that little whatever, moves on. Kitty!
Meow.
But I do rather like the imagery of that.
So my current theory is that she was sent to me by a Nazi.
Or
sometimes referred to Aunt Nancy.
Yeah. That's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm. No. Do you want to go in your kitty cave?
Maybe that's another thing we should add. I should add to the list of doing a thing about signs and portents in life, because it's something that you notice I talk about a lot. Gloria talks about a lot. I don't think a lot of people kind of get the ins and outs of that. Maybe that's something we should add to the list.
She's such a pretty girl, though.
She is.
She loves to sniff everything. But she doesn't want any human food. She just wants to smell it.
But if anybody's gotten anything out of our discussion today, I really want it to be this. And it's not to fear what you don't know. Because not even for the logic of how can you be afraid of something that you don't know, but for just the sheer let it go of it.
No, wants to watch the fire. Yeah, I'm moving it. You know what cats like to do to fire? Smack it. Sounds like the Irish believe that the foolish part of every person. Oh God, is that not a mood and a half?
A little bit, yeah. Just a skosh, just a touch.
Humans are such odd creatures. We love and frankly yearn for the occasional adventure. Like, it's not just, the Irish that want to all be hobbits and occasionally go on adventures to like volcanoes or dragons, whatever. It's all humans. We love our cozy little hobbit holes, and then occasionally spice it up, and then go back to your hobbit hole and eat your cheese and drink your wine and whatever, tea, and like be a cozy little hobbit burrito. But like, yeah, I think that's recognizing. I think that it is recognizing this kind of unique thing about humans, because not all other species are like that. I mean, yeah, some dogs are like that, some cats, but most creatures are just, they just like their little life, and that's it. Oh, she got to go on patrol. So it's kind of recognizing this, we're a little different from most other creatures. Although that said, now with tracking, whales, it turns out, go on adventures sometimes. So do dolphins. Like giraffes are every once in a while like, hey, let's go to another part of the whole continent. Elephants, we know this for a fact. African elephants, particularly before modern times, and I say modern times of modern shipping routes, before modern shipping routes were a thing, African elephants really like to swim the 100 miles to India to go visit the Indian elephants with their babies, with their little baby elephants with them. And so they all got snorkels, and then swim back a couple days later or a month or so later. Not like there was anything wrong with the food in Africa, but just like adventure time. Let's go see what the cousins are doing. Why not? It's the weather's good. I'm bored. Let's go. And they do that. And like, it turns out they've been doing it for literally at least 100,000 years. They have been doing this. Elephants have been teaching their baby elephants, every once in a while you could just go to India real quick. It's fun. There's elephants over there. They're different, but they're nice. We go visit them, and then we come back, and then we tell everybody here what that was like. I don't know. If you told me it turns out elephants have storytelling ability, I would absolutely believe you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because they seem like they would, honestly.
We have isolated so many different vocalizations that they do. It does appear that they have something akin to language, if not language itself.
Yeah. But a lot of it humans can't even detect because it's so low.
It's infrasonic, yeah.
That we needed special equipment to detect their language, which wild. But like, so it may be that other living creatures also occasionally just need to go adventuring. We think humans are special when we're not. Isn't that cool? Heather, there are pictures.
Yeah.
There are pictures on the internet of these elephants still doing this. It's just more dangerous for them now because the shipping routes, because they actually have to go right next to the Suez Canal is the problem. And it totally interrupts shipping. Yeah. Or at least some of them. Not all of the elephants go by the Suez Canal, but some of them, I think the elephants are learning to go around. So it's like, 120 miles instead of 100 miles. But yeah, they like to just swim. They just can do it in one day. They can just swim for a whole day and just, go visit India, because who doesn't want a vacation? But yeah, they do that. It's wild. I think it is the coolest dang thing. I love that about the planet we live on. It is the stuff of fantasy. Truth is stranger than fiction. And that's what I mean of like when I write about this like sort of magical surrealist world, and everyone's like, oh, Glenn, you're so creative. The truth is like, no, I believe I actually live in this world already. It's just I'm a voracious reader, and a lot of y'all apparently not reading the same things I am about real natural wildlife.
Yeah, this gets to a lot of topics that we will probably be touching on in future, because there's such a human-centric, anthropocentric way of looking at the world that we don't see the wonder that is literally happening all around us all the time, and all of the things.
Or that like elephants look at us the way we look at puppies.
Yep.
When we have put elephants in scanners.
Yep.
And when we show elephants pictures of human beings, their brain lights up exactly the same way human brains light up when we see puppies. So we, humans, are puppies to elephants.
I would gladly be an elephant's puppy.
But also dogs, when they see humans, their
Like,
brain
oh,
lights
look
up.
at you, so cute and small.
Yes, they're like, oh, look at that little human. Oh my God, it's so hairless. Oh, look at that. Oh, come over here. Come here, human. Do you want a banana?
Look at those
You want
tiny
a
little
banana?
ears. Look at those tiny little ears. Oh, your nose is so
I'll
small.
give you the banana anyway. You know, like that. I'm like, but here's the thing: dogs' brains light up when they see humans the same way that our brains light up when we see dogs. Dogs are like, look at this human. I love this human. Have you seen this one? It's cute. Have you seen this one? It smells funny, but it's always got cheese, so it's fun. Like that, dogs look at it the same way. So there is that sense of wonder, and other animals experience it. It's not just humans. So that's right. Animals, and for all we know, like cats are experiencing this way. Big cats are looking at things and going, wow, isn't that cool? That's just a cool thing. For all I know, lions look at dachshunds and go, that is a cool, tiny little thing. Yeah, okay, what do you want us to do, dachshund? We'll go do it. Like, I don't know, but even other creatures are experiencing a sense of wonder on this planet because this plane of existence we live in is freaking amazing. See, Heather says, I've always felt that way. People don't stop to notice the owners of this earth. The wonders of this earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of it is like something I talked to Charlie about. I wanted to do an episode about life is grief. We have to grieve again that loss that we talk about. But here's the thing. Once you have healed from the grief, that doesn't mean you have immediately fallen back in love with the world. You have to re-engage in those loving feelings for people, places, and things in the world. It doesn't just automatically happen. When you get over the breakup of a relationship, you don't just automatically fall in love as soon as like another human walks by. You have to want to be in love and then find an appropriate person for you that matches your baggage, family baggage with their family baggage. You have to find that. And that's something that people don't talk about is not only do you have to get really good at processing grief if you're going to make it through adulthood, but you also need to learn how to fall back in love about a bajillion times because the world will break your heart a bajillion times. And every time your heart is broken, you have to heal your heart and honor that scar that you will now always have in your heart, but then also go back and re-engage to fall in love again. And that takes courage. It takes so much courage because it's not like you just forgot the pain. You have to go do the thing again, even though it inevitably will have pain. Because even though that relationship lasted forever afterwards, eventually someone's got to die. And the pain will come. So how do you do it knowing it's going to hurt? How do you fall in love with the world, knowing that inevitably the other side of that will still also have pain as part of the cycle and not shying away from it? Because of course we shy away from it. Our neurology wants us to pull back from the fire to preserve us. But survival is not the same as thriving. So I was like, I want to talk about this sometime. Let's do an episode about it.
I hate to be that cliched person who keeps on the internet, who keeps referring to the Matrix, but it's that one scene where she tells him that don't worry about the vase, and then he backs up and breaks the vase, and that she gets to the punchline of what's really going to bake your noodle is, would you have done it if I hadn't said anything?
Yep.
This is so much the secret of life. If you are not setting yourself up to have positive experiences, you will not have positive experiences. It's like neurologically, chemically in your body, the difference between anxiety and excitement is undetectable. The brain is firing the same way, the same neurochemistry is going on. It is literally an attitude choice that makes the difference. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not one of those people that's telling you, so when you're anxious, just tell yourself you're excited and it's magic and switches and it's fine. Because no, there's a lot of things that go into prepping your mind to see things as excitement.
Also, sometimes anxiety is good because anxiety says, get out of the room. Be safe. Leave. This seems unsafe. Like, anxiety is good versus excitement does not say leave the room, run now.
No.
So
But
anxiety could be our friend.
Like the story I've told you about my sister having the hyperventilating when we were camping and there was a thunderstorm and she
Yep.
couldn't calm down. So we went home and a tornado blew through.
Yep.
Mhm.
And she's like,
the-
see?
and that's the thing, though. This is one of the reasons. Today's topic, befriending the darkness, is so important because if you approach
I'm not sure about that.
well, you're a robot, so it's fine. Just dream of your electric sheep.
Man, keep it to yourself.
But this is why it's so important. No matter what the gods at Amazon think, because if you approach every dark thing in your life, be it grief, pain, loss, just unknowing itself, going into that cloud of unknowing where you can't see what's ahead of you, if you anticipate all of it to be nothing but terror and evil and villainy, when you get there, what you will find is terror and evil and villainy, because you will ignore anything good that could happen. You will ignore the opportunities that come your way. And while, again, if anybody...
And you'll minimize the good things that happened against your will. People who were kind to you when you didn't ask for it, you'll minimize it.
It's like the story I was telling earlier. When we moved to California, it was not because we went, hey, this will be great. Let's completely uproot our lives, say goodbye to everyone we know, and move 3,000 miles across country because, woo, fun. There were a lot of things that led to that decision, and none of them were good. Like, none of them were good. It was a bunch of terrible, terrible events that led us to this decision. But we chose to see it as an adventure. And so we drove from Frederick, Maryland, all the way out to Oakland, California, in a tiny little probe, in a tiny little Ford probe, with all of our stuff in it. We drove cross country.
Big old tall people.
Yes, and we're both
in
tall
a clown
people
car.
in this itty bitty car. But we chose to see it as an adventure. Every time a radio station died because we didn't have a
Antenna.
a Walkman, a Discman that wouldn't skip in the car because the car had a nice hum to it, so we had to rely on the radio. So when a station died because we'd gotten so far away, it's time for an adventure. Let's find out what's going on here. Boy, it's that. Oh, what was that show where? Oh, it's The Simpsons when they were driving. Was it The Simpsons? Yeah, when they were driving cross country and every channel was like and there's 7 signs of evil. We found out that's not a joke. Like that's not a joke. Just spin that radio dial and be like, wow, there's a lot of that in this country.
Lord save me from AM radio.
Woo! But it was part of the adventure. Let's find a channel that we can listen to that's playing music that we like, that we're interested in, and listen to it for as long as we can. We turned every little thing into something that would move us forward. Not going to stop. We're going to keep going. And with all of the roadblocks on the way, all the things that could have just derailed everything, we just kept pushing. We kept going.
Even Albuquerque.
Oh God!
Even Albuquerque.
Why is that place so weird?
We got lost in Albuquerque, and we couldn't get. We had a military escort to get out of Albuquerque because we kept ending up at the military base, and the guy just recognized us and was like, "You didn't find the turn, did you?"
Especially by the 4th time.
Yeah.
Also, why does the food suck there? Oh, I said it.
So we literally had a military
So there's a
escort that
reason
helped us.
Weird Al wrote a song about that.
There's also a reason Bugs Bunny always gets lost there.
I mean, like,
It is so easy to take a wrong turn in Albuquerque.
So bad there, and the people's standards are so low.
It's astounding. But and again, when we got there, we didn't know anyone. Didn't realize how much the cost of living was different between the two coasts, because the internet existed then, but was
it's not the same.
Predominantly dominated by AOL, which I don't know. Kids, ask your parents what AOL was. Like find a video that explain it wasn't the same internet. There was a Google, but it sucked. Like ready
It's like
access.
if Amazon and Facebook had like a baby, and you could only navigate the website, and that was all of the internet.
Yep.
That's what AOL was.
Yeah.
If Facebook and Amazon had a baby, but not you couldn't purchase things. It's just that, like how Amazon stuff is like terrible searches. You have to actually use Google to search for Amazon stuff. But like Amazon and Facebook had a baby, and you could only navigate within, and they said that's the internet, and it was not the internet.
Yeah, they were.
It was just a part of the internet. That's what AOL was. It was terrible.
But we kept reframing it. Everything that happened, we kept reframing. It's an adventure. It's an adventure. It's an adventure. This too is an adventure. The only apartment we found that we could afford is literally on a street that has gangster rap songs written about it. Like, not even joking. Not like right there on the San Leandro border. Like, and we were like, the name of the street sounds familiar. And then like the kid that lived next door came out and was like, hey, you know, Tupac wrote a song about this about this block, right? Like, wait, what? And then he played it for us, and we're like, oh, we're moving here. Like it was an interesting experience, and we just kept telling ourselves, it's an adventure. It's all an adventure. And sometimes you have to just chant that to yourself. Sometimes you just have to make yourself see it that way, because if you start going like this, sorry to bring Star Wars up again, but it's the most correct thing that is said in any of those movies. When you start walking down the dark path, forever will it haunt your destiny. When you start sitting there going, everything's terrible, everything's crap, everything will be terrible and everything will be crap. And I am not an optimist. I am a pessimist at heart. So take this for what I mean, for the truth that I have found in it. Yeah, this was better than where we lived.
East side representative.
Yeah, we lived on 106 in Bancroft, on the San Leandro border, on the east side of Oakland. Yeah, that's where we lived.
They were real nice to us in Compton.
It was. I have so many happy memories from that place. A lot of very scary ones as well. Like, you know, muggings were a thing. Crime was a thing. There was a wonderful game that we would play where we would leave something on the ground behind us and spin to see if it would still be there when we got back around. And usually no. I don't know what took it, because I can't imagine a human moved as fast as would be necessary for it to disappear, but it would be gone. Like it was an interesting experience. It was a very interesting experience and an interesting place to live. But we didn't let it get to us, because we knew if we started complaining, like towards the end of living there, because things got better, things got okay, and then the energy crisis happened. And anybody who did not live in California when the energy crisis happened, it is really hard to explain. Suddenly getting a bill for your power that normally, you know, isn't all that much, and it's like $5,000 because they decided to open the energy markets, and so they decided
that then happened in Texas.
Yeah,
15, 20 years later.
Yeah,
and they were absolutely shocked when like babies, you know, froze to death in an ice storm rather than people turning heat on.
It was a nightmare. Businesses were going out of business. There were no jobs anywhere. It was bad. It was the financial collapse part one. It was the pre-run of the financial collapse that would then happen a couple years later, where they tested it in California first, and then they went nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
And we were literally living. We would get a giant bag of basmati rice because it was cheap. We would get frozen chicken. And between the two of us, we would share one chicken breast that we would cut into 4 pieces to make 2 meals out of for each of us. So each of us got a quarter of a chicken breast per meal, and we could afford onions because they were cheap, and we could afford spices because they were cheap, and also lasted a long time. It was an investment. You got it once and you could use it for months. And we lived on rice, a quarter piece of chicken, and onions for months. That was it. That was all that we had. And it would be really easy to get into a place of, well, life is short, life is shit, soon it will be over. Right? Just to get into this place where we came out here for things to get better, things were getting better, and then this happened. And to get into that defeatism. And the best thing that ever happened to me is I married an inveterate optimist that would not let us go there. And he was, and I'm going to regret saying this later, but he was right. We had to stay positive. And it's not that Pollyanna positive of, oh, look around, everything's great, as the world's burning around you. Like, this isn't the everything's fine meme. Like, we knew what the trouble was. We knew what the problems were. There's no point worrying about them because there was nothing we could do. Like, we had an apartment because, as our landlady told us, there's nobody renting right now, and it would cost me more to have this place empty to evict you than to just let you live here. So we did basically maintenance on the property. We cut the bushes, we trimmed the grass, we basically did maintenance to pay rent, because even the landlady was like, everything's terrible, we can't do anything. I don't know that we would have made it through all of that. And I'm shortcutting a lot of things. A lot of things happened in that time. If it wasn't for the fact that we just kept the eyes on the prize and was like, it's a brand new adventure every day. Every day, let's go see if we can see if there are there jobs today? Have the job fairies come? And honestly, you want to know what the silver lining was? Like, the moral of the story, how is darkness your friend? The moral of the story is we had California snow. By which I mean it lightly flurried and everybody freaked out that they were going to die because it lightly flurried. And somebody rear-ended Brian and hit our car, and it hit it so hard it went up into the car in front of it, snapped the axle in half.
Oh, wow.
And totaled the car. He was fine physically. It just wrecked. The car was wrecked. But somehow, one of the few bills we struggled to keep paying was our insurance. Because if we didn't have a car, we hadn't. That's how we do. Like, we were done. Like, we'll eat the rice and the one piece of chicken. We have to have the car, or we're done. It was the insurance money from the settlement that helped us rent the moving van to get where we are now. That bad thing had to happen for us to get the funds to get into a better situation. And I'm not saying like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I don't like that. No.
That's not the moral of the story here.
No, the universe is chaos.
Yeah. That's not the moral of the story here. The moral of the story is persevere. Just embrace the darkness. It is your friend. It is not there to hurt you. You just don't know where it's taking you. Go along for the ride and keep yourself as safe as you possibly can along the way. And you never know what's going to happen. Like, if you would have told us at that time that we would be living here, like, this is literally the house I grew up in. Because when we moved here, shortly thereafter, my grandfather died. I inherited this house because he literally had a house built for each of his kids and each of his grandkids. And when he died, each of us got a house. The one nice thing I can say about him, because he was not a very good or decent person, but he looked out for all of us. So my cousin is living in the house that he got from him. Most of my cousins are, and I am living in the house that he built for us. And that gave us a feeling of stability. And then we started growing from there. We were able to get the loans and go into an obscene amount of debt and get the restaurant. We were able to start pushing forward. It's about perseverance. The moment you say, fine, just let me die, you're gone. Don't do it. It's not worth it. There's so many magical things that I would have missed out on if I had given into that nihilism at any step along the way. I would have missed knowing all of you. And that would really have been a terrible thing. It's not that everything happens for a reason. It's that we are stronger than we think we are. The darkness is not there to hurt you. Honestly, it's indifferent towards you. It doesn't care. Just embrace it. Treat it like your friend and just keep moving. Maybe a better day on the other side. There will at least be a day on the other side. It's the one true thing I can tell you about predicting the future. The sun will rise. Because the earth will be spinning. And we have not found an asteroid big enough to knock us out of orbit yet. So, woohoo! That's my version of optimism.
What other stripy things you got?
That was it.
You got it? Okay. Well, look at us.
Yeah. Relived. Yeah. Yeah. We have lived in some choice places. I'm just going to say that. So thank you all for being here. I hope you had some fun. I hope you learned something. I hope you found something that you can take away from this that will hopefully make your life a little bit different, if not better.
Food for thought.
My goal with these is to do the thing that I think we don't do enough of, and that's try to make meaning together. I've been doing a lot of classes lately, and one of the things that I had to do for one of the leadership classes was answer the question of what do I want to do with my life? And it was hold conversations with other people to try to find meaning. Talk about the deep things, talk about the serious things, and know that I don't have all the answers. None of us have all of the answers. None of us may have any of the answers. But the only way we're going to find anything...
What are answers?
Yeah.
Illusions.
But the whole point is to make the meaning together. And that's what we're trying to do here. And I hope you...
I mean, I think of it as like we're all just trying to cope.
Yeah.
We're going to talk through coping with each other as we continue to white knuckle it through life. Like, truly, just dance. When you don't know what it is, just dance. Right? Just listen to music, rock it out. Because, like, it's all neutral, which means it's not good or bad. It's just right now. And here is the solace. This too shall pass. Is it bad? Do you hate it? It will pass. Is it wonderful? It will pass. It will all pass. Give it a moment. It'll pass. And like, while that sounds nihilistic of like, oh, everything it's not worth trying. No, it's just this will pass. Whatever it is, know the truth of that. It will pass. And then there'll be a new thing. Yep. And you don't know if you'll like it or not, but it will be a thing. And then that will pass. And then there'll be a new thing. And this is called life. This will keep happening until your body just can't anymore. And that's it. But that's the comfort. Because you're not going to get bored. I promise you that. We have so many lovely things, including books and games and computers. You're not going to get bored. If you're bored, it's probably on the inside. And it's time to go out and dance. Just say it. If you're bored, because bored, what is actually boredom? Boredom is low-level sadness. And it's perfectly valid to feel sad because this world can be sad. Recognize the sadness. And when you're ready to stop feeling sad, Dance. Dance with your dog, dance with your cat, dance with your children, dance by yourself. But go out and dance until you're ready to go on another life adventure, until you're ready to experience the next adventure, because it will pass. You're feeling sad, that will pass too. It's promised, because humans can't hold sadness in our brain. That's something we actually know now. Is humans cannot hold any emotion. I think it's actually, what is it? Like technically it's not, can't hold the same emotional feeling for longer than 45 minutes without having to renew it. So every 45 minutes-ish, you have an opportunity to switch gears. What a wonderful way. Dance. Dance, sing along, watch a movie, go for a walk, do anything else. If you don't like how you feel, if you do like it, sit in it. If you like the joy, if you're feeling a good feeling, sit in it. But if you don't like it, don't worry. Don't worry. It will pass. It feels like forever. Oh my God, why does that's happen? It will feel like forever. Anytime you're miserable, I know this. I swear to God, I feel it more than you. It feels
I think
like
I saw this on a meme once, or it said something like, "This too will pass. Sometimes it may pass like a kidney stone, but it will pass."
yeah. Oh, it'll hurt the whole way. Blood, sweat, and tears. But it will pass. And then something new will happen. And that's the comfort. No matter how you feel, you will not feel this way forever. Because the human brain just can't do it. Turns out. And that's a comfort. It's an actual it is. Like Tom's got a whole thing about, like, it turns out feeling depressed actually has some benefits, both psychological and physical. And Tom is like talking about writing a book called The Depression Diet. About, no, eat like you're depressed. This is give it a try. Like, I hate to be that way, that Pollyanna, there's a silver lining to everything. But it's not that there's a silver lining, it's that there's multiple perspectives to every event. And however you initially feel about an event, it feels so final. It feels like, oh, it definitely is this. I'm totally right. Just because someone has a different perspective than yours in that moment doesn't mean that your feeling is wrong. It means there's multiple ways to feel about it. And no matter how you feel, it will pass. And so it's one of those of, I frankly look forward to change. Even though I too find change scary. Please don't think that I don't feel fear. Oh my God, do I have so much anxiety? I have so much, particularly social anxiety. Oh my God. It's the only dreams I have are nightmares about social anxiety. Why, brain? Why could you not give me a rest? I need a rest. I need a rest from my own head. But my brain is like, no, we must work these out. You can't work it out. You cannot solve people. And the back of my lizard brain is like, yes, I can. No, I'm not that smart. Yeah. And yet, I'm telling you now, change is a comfort because it means nothing lasts for too long. And I promise you, there are times, you are probably, most people, anybody watching this now or later, I can honestly say to you, this is probably not the worst you will ever feel in your life. However, you've already felt how bad you've had a moment in your life that felt so terrible. And believe me, I know some real horror stories. And those people have told me, yeah, that's not actually as bad as life can actually get. And my life got worse later. And I was like, well, how did you cope? How have you not gone stark raving mad? And the answer is, I knew it would not last forever because nothing can. Because the world keeps spinning. I knew I would die and that would be a relief, or something would change. I would find an escape. I would see the door. They would just get bored with me and leave. Whatever it was, it's not going to last forever. There will be a change, and that was my comfort. Understand this. Like, this needs to be a paradigm shift for people who are still feeling like the world is madness and they don't like it. Like, it's not like I love the world. Look, the world is madness and I don't like it either, but I'm not like up in arms all the time. But I hear so many people stressing out about it. And I'm like, but the world is madness. The world is constant change. And that's a comfort because no matter what, I don't have to get used to it. Oh, I hate when people tell me to get used to it. There is nothing to get used to because the world will never stop changing. Are you kidding?
It's always different.
Do you know how much more respectful people talk to me now than they did 30 years ago when I was a young girl? Even when I was a young woman, people talk to me. Oh my, can I just tell you how many times, and not just in Mississippi, because I traveled quite a bit. I traveled internationally quite a bit. Do you know how many people said Little Missy to me? Little Missy is never said with kindness or love.
Nope.
Little Missy is always said like this. Little Missy. Like you don't know crap. And nobody has said that to me in about 17, 18 years. And the last person who said that to me was in my video store days. And I looked at him like this, like, what? Why did that come out of your mouth? And he took a step back as if I'd slapped him. She stuttered. And then half apologized and stopped himself and changed the subject. And that was the early 2000s in South Mississippi. What changed? Yes, I did change. So hence, I looked at him like, what the hell are you, what? Why are you calling me Little Missy? I, a woman who owns this video store. Do you really think I'm going to feel less? But also what changed was the world changed. People don't talk that way to most people most of the time anymore. I know that it feels like, oh, things are so bad. And yes, I am not thrilled about the rollback of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, no.
But I am here to say, don't worry. Give it a little time. It'll change. Don't worry. Your effort is worthwhile. But again, it will change. And change should comfort you.
Yep.
So I'm done talking. I'm going to get off my little soapbox, my little apple box.
Beautiful soapbox, though.
But I just I hear so many people talking about how change is so scary. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Please hold my hand. I'm scared, but I'm going to still walk into the change so I can get to it faster anytime I don't like where I currently am.
Yeah.
If you like where I'm currently, I'm like, it can come to me. I'm not moving my butt. But again, it's just inevitable. Don't think that there's anything you can do in your life to stop change from happening because you wouldn't want to. That is a description of hell.
There's a wonderful technique that if you've done activism for any period of time, you've probably been taught. It's called the spider technique. And anytime something really bad is happening or you're worried about something really bad happening, you're encouraged to get out a piece of paper and write down what are the 3 worst things that could happen. When you're done with that, pick the one that you feel is most likely and ask yourself, what are the 3 things that are worse than that? Because we're really good at coming up with bad scenarios that never happen. And the whole point is you're making a prediction list of all the things that just aren't going to happen so that you can get them out of your head and then move on. And it's an odd thing to do, but it does help. It actually does help. Does anybody else have any final thoughts before we move on? Alrighty. So next week, bring your favorite recipes, bring your favorite stories about the season. We are going to be talking about re-enchanting the winter solstice. So
speaking of falling back in love.
All about falling back in love. What are your family traditions, favorite foods, stories that you want to tell about your kids when you were a kid, something that happened to your brother that was just completely insane? I might tell that story. All of the fun things. We are going to go back in and re-enchant the holidays because you know what? That's what they're for. That's the whole point of the solstice celebration, is to bring the light back, not to hope and pray, Mr. Light, will you please come back? No, you got together and you made such a roar and a thunder that the gods went, wait, what's going on over there? And came back over with this and brought the sun with them because they needed to see what are y'all doing? Like, wait, what? So we're going to be talking about that. We'll have legends, we'll have lore, we'll maybe even have some practices. Bring your favorites. Let's all share them together. I think it's going to be fantastic and a wonderful good time. Because I know with Gloria and I here, there will probably be an extensive list that we'll have to put somewhere of recipes of, oh yes, it's the time of year to make this cookie and this cookie and this cake and this, all the pies.
Hot cocoa.
All the, I have so many different
You don't
cocoa
realize how
recipes.
easy it is to make delicious hot cocoa in your mug. You don't have to make a mix, keep a container. You need cocoa powder, sugar, hot water, and then if you wanted dairy. But like, it's so easy, y'all. It's so easy. And like, this is the time of year: the hot cocoa, the hot tea, the mulled wine, the mulled cider.
We have some good wassail recipes that we'll probably be sharing as well.
Hot buttered rum.
So definitely bring those with you. If you have any topics that you would like us to discuss, my DMs are open on pretty much every social media channel, so you can hit me up. I'm Creations Pass on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and here on the YouTubes. I also have a Substack. All the links down in the doobly-doo down below. Let us know if there's anything in particular you would like us to talk about, because it's about community and being of service and bringing all the goodness together. All right, until next time, may the light ever shine upon you, and you know what? Maybe go and hug some darkness while you're at it. Let's have some fun, y'all. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.